The battle in the wild world filled the original devil race with a newfound passion. They were obtaining a huge number of devil cores, treasures that could strengthen their divine seals. Against the devil race, they had a natural advantage. Although the martial heaven continent also had channels to the devil world, they couldn't participate in those battles. Now, this was the original devil race's first battle against the devil race in many years. It possessed significant meaning. Practically, every expert of the original devil race had obtained a portion of the devil cores. The elites had gotten even more. Xihan immediately went into seclusion to refine the devil cores. Xihan had given all the devil cores from the winged devil king race to her. Xihan had only kept 4 of those devil cores. She had returned the rest to her mother, startling her. However, Xihan quickly understood Xiaoqian's intentions. When she had returned those devil cores, she had been completely red. That was because she didn't want to stay in the original devil race. She wanted to be with Long Chen. If she absorbed all the best devil cores, she would become the strongest warrior of the original devil race with the strongest divine seal. As a result, she would be critical to the defense against the winged devils and wouldn't be able to accompany Long Chen. Xihan accepted the remaining devil cores. She herself refined a portion of them and then found suitable experts for the rest. That way, there would be other powerful warriors while Xiaoqian and Xihan weren't present. The original devil race was filled with joy, but some people were even more excited than them. They were Guoran and Xiaqin. After setting up some defenses, they focused on forging. With the phoenix blood immortal gold and other divine materials, they slightly modified their designs once more. They wanted the armor and weapons they made to be even stronger. Last time, the weapons and armor that Guoran had forged only had the power of quasi-divine items because the materials and runes weren't strong enough. Having even more options now, he wanted to create even stronger ones. The two of them were filled with anticipation for their final products. As everyone got busy, Wild stood guard over the mining operation. He was anxiously waiting for magical beasts to send food to him. He and 1,000 Dragonblood warriors had become a roving defense squad. In just 7 days, they killed over 10 12th rank magical beasts, with 2 being at the late 12th rank. Wild was in charge of facing the magical beasts directly, while the Dragonblood warriors sought the opponent's weaknesses. This world's name had been completely changed to the Wild World. The original devil race was going through it step by step, and in just the preliminary scouting, they found 17 mineral deposits. Those were all extremely precious mineral deposits, with one of them in particular being a very rare spirit stone vein. They were essentially excavating money. The original devil race had sent almost half their manpower into the wild world. As for Long Chen, he was refining pills. The moon and star refining furnace shook, and a blood-colored liquid flowed out of it and into a bottle in Long Chen's hand. Xihi, the blue-eye golden toad's essence blood has been refined. Its purity is even greater than expected. Long Chen smiled happily. These peak 12th rank magical beasts were treasures in and of themselves. In particular, the essence blood that could be refined out of their crystal cores was extremely pure. After all, that was where their life's essence was condensed. Long Chen had extracted all the precious parts of over 100 magical beasts that he had gotten from Wild. Their crystal cores, their skeletons, their venoms, teeth, everything that could be used, he extracted. Before this, he only had certain medicinal ingredients. Now that he had these treasures from the bodies of magical beasts, he could refine even more 11th tier pills. I have the golden armor jewel heart, the earth cavern tree demon's demonic heart, the 7-star water vine's Niden, flame crystal colored glass, and heavy earth essence. All 5 elements have been gathered. I can finally refine the life star pill. Long Chen examined the ingredients he had and smiled. The reason his cultivation speed was so slow was because he cultivated the 9-star Hegemon body art. Even after stepping into the life star realm so long ago, he had yet to reach the 2nd heaven stage. Back when he had broken through to the life star realm, his life star tribulation had transformed into a dragonization tribulation. Due to the energy of the dragonization tribulation and his own accumulated energy, he managed to directly charge into the first heaven stage. At that time, he consecutively slew the various peak heavenly geniuses and then killed Heavenly Fate Island's master, Ji, fully destroying Heavenly Fate Island. Since then, his cultivation base had stagnated. It wasn't that he had given up on cultivating, but the amount of energy required to advance was astonishing. Others only had 1 astral space, while Longchen had 108,000. Although each one was smaller, the amount of energy he needed for each advancement was thousands of times greater than others. If he just relied on normal cultivation methods, he would have to give up on advancing to the Nether Passage realm within the next few thousand years. Due to that, he had been constantly gathering the ingredients necessary for the Life Star Pill. Now, he had finally gathered all of them. Without the help of Meng Qi and the others, he could only rely on himself. He quickly finished the first refinement, and it wasn't that bad. He managed to refine 3 top-grade pills. That was already a bit better than he had expected. After all, this was his first time, and he lacked experience. The second time, he refined 5 top-grade pills. He refined 10 furnaces of pills without pause and finally managed to refine 9 top-grade pills in 1 furnace. One reason was due to his own experience with the refinement of this pill, while another reason was because the Moon and Star refining furnace had memorized the refinement process. Longchen tried out one of his pills. After consuming one, the 108,000 stars in his body began to rapidly spin, and his divine ring automatically appeared to absorb energy from the world. Longchen nodded. This Life Star Pill's effect was truly amazing. Even without experiencing the baptism of heavenly lightning, it possessed such a strong effect. Unfortunately, just 1 pill was not enough to cause any significant growth for his cultivation base. That was within his expectations. If others consumed this Life Star Pill, they could probably advance a whole heaven stage. But for Longchen, it was far from enough. Longchen's excitement faded. The 9-star Ximen body art was a bottomless pit. Who knew how many Life Star Pills he would have to refine? He didn't have much time. Refining on his own, his spiritual strength wasn't able to keep up. He refined for 10 days straight, only managing to refine 3,000 Life Star Pills. He needed to constantly stop and focus on restoring his spiritual strength every now and then, lowering his refining speed. To refine 9 top-grade pills every time was practically cheating. Then he made them into tribulation pills. If that information was leaked, the entire world would go crazy. However, Longchen was still worried about not having enough time. This wasn't efficient enough. After refining 1 last furnace of pills, then he left, going to the battlefield. Upon arriving, he saw Yu Shaoqian directing experts of the original devil race to clean up the battlefield. Seeing Longchen, she smiled and ran over, holding his hand. This is the 3rd battle. We've exterminated them every time. Xiaqian's formations are too amazing. We didn't let a single devil escape. Xiaqian's formations allowed the devils to come charging out, but by the time they realized something was wrong and tried to flee, they found layers of restrictions preventing them from escaping. Then they were cut down by the original devil race. In these 3 battles, the winged devil race didn't appear. Instead, there was the Titan devil race, the huge eagle devil race, and the shadow devil race. According to Xihan's analysis, this channel was most likely masterless. The devil race had accidentally found it. Otherwise, the ones attacking would have all been members of the winged devil race. That was extremely beneficial to the original devil race. They could continue reaping the devil cores. In these 3 battles, the original devil race only lost a few hundred people, but they had annihilated armies of billions of devils. Their devil cores only continued to make them stronger. The younger disciples were getting accustomed to battle and making fewer errors. Their casualties were dropping. As they got stronger from refining their devil cores, their advantage over the devils only grew. It went without saying that the original devil race's natural gifts against the devil race were amazing. Even Longchen was envious. Having to block the invasion of the devil Qi had been a pain for Longchen, but Xihan said that the divine seal of the original devil race, which repelled the devil Qi, had been bestowed by an heir of the 9 stars. However, he, another so-called 9-star heir, was constantly disturbed by that devil chi. Long Chen even started to suspect that he was a fake 9-star heir. As for the mining, it was progressing well. Although some magical beasts would occasionally disturb them, everything was under control with Wild and the Dragonblood Legion present. Long Chen roamed around and returned the corpses of the magical beasts to Wild. Those were his rations, and Long Chen had taken what he had needed to take. After seeing everything, Long Chen was preparing to go back into seclusion when he heard thunderous roars in the distance. Then, multiple terrifying auras began to rise. Could it be? Startled, Long Chen immediately rushed off in that direction. By the time Long Chen rushed over, he saw that millions of magical beasts had charged into the Drake King's territory and started a crazy battle. The Drake race and the other magical beasts were in an intense battle against them. Everything was chaotic, with more magical beasts joining in with each passing moment. At first, Long Chen thought that it was a rebellion, but he quickly noticed that the magical beasts were split into two sides, and up in the sky, the Drake King was fighting a giant blood phoenix. It's the Beast King from the other region. Long Chen's heart shook. The Drake King had said that the wild world was split into eastern and western sides. The Drake King controlled the east, while the Blood Phoenix controlled the west. Unexpectedly, the Blood Phoenix had led a sneak attack now. Long Chen examined the Blood Phoenix. Its blood-colored feathers actually had a flame burning within them. Wild runes whirled around it with every move of its body. Astral winds raged, and its sharp claws tore through the void. It was fighting evenly against the Drake King. Boss, not good. One of our mines has been destroyed by the invading magical beasts. There are thousands of casualties amongst the original devil race's disciples. One of the Dragonblood warriors rushed over to him with a report. The target of these magical beasts was the Drake King. They had simply coincidentally passed by one of their mines and destroyed it in passing. Although Wild and his defense squad had rushed over immediately, there was no way for them to stop this army. They had only been able to save a portion of the people working inside the mine. In his fury, Wild stayed in the mine region and started fighting some of those magical beasts. The other Dragonblood warriors guarded the original devil race's disciples as they retreated, and they sent one person over to report this to Long Chen. A bunch of uncivilized animals don't know what respect is. Then let's start a slaughter. Tell Wild and the others to come over here once the original devil race's disciples have all been evacuated. We'll help the Drake race eliminate them. Killing intent blazed within Long Chen's eyes. In the end, there were always unexpected changes to plans. Yes. That warrior immediately left. Long Chen stepped through the air, charging straight through the battlefield. Masking his aura, he went toward one of the large blood phoenixes. That blood phoenix was currently fighting the Drake King's mate. The blood phoenix raked the drake's back, ripping out a chunk of scales, but at the same time, it was struck by the drake's tail, causing feathers to blow away in a wild whirl. Clearly, the Drake and Blood Phoenix races had been fighting for many years and were familiar with each other's fighting styles. As soon as the battle started, it became bloody. Die! Suddenly, Evil Moon came slashing for the Blood Phoenix's neck from behind. The phoenix's head went flying, and blood filled the air. Just now, all its attention had been focused on its opponent, and in truth, although it had also injured the Drake, the tail strike had broken its protective divine light and shaken its insides. That was a more serious injury, and Long Chen had grasped that timing perfectly, striking it during its weakest state. The head flying through the air was struck by a wave of dragon breath from the Drake, which killed it in body and soul. Long Chen flicked a drop of blood at the Drake, feeding it a drop of his essence blood. You be the main attack, and I'll be the support, transmitted Long Chen spiritually. That drop of blood had contained his spiritual seal, as it was much more convenient to speak spiritually. The Drake roared and charged after another blood phoenix. With it going all out and Long Chen launching sneak attacks at the right moment, another blood phoenix was slain. The Drake King's mate was second only to the Drake King, and it also possessed a certain level of intelligence. The two of them were able to work together well. They picked out the strongest opposing magical beasts as their targets. The Drake would force a scenario where both sides were injured, and Long Chen would take that chance to launch a killing blow. They had no choice but to kill as many enemies as they could. Due to the battle with the winged devils, the Drake race's side had taken many losses, and this sudden attack from the Blood Phoenix race put them at an immense disadvantage. The Drake King and the King of the Blood Phoenixes were busy with each other and couldn't interfere with the others. Due to the vast power discrepancy between the two sides, the Drake King's magical beasts were being slaughtered rapidly. Long Chen and the Drake King's mate ended up drawing quite a bit of attention. As a result, 3 of the Blood Phoenixes charged over. One of them opened its mouth, unleashing a ray of light. A warning came from the Drake, telling Long Chen that this was one of their strongest moves. Even the Drake race didn't like to receive this move head-on. Boom. However, before the attack could be unleashed, the condensing power exploded, blowing apart the Blood Phoenix's head. Its corpse fell to the ground. "Who gave you the courage to open your mouth in front of me, Guoran?" At this moment, Guoran appeared in the sky, holding a new blood-colored crossbow. He was looking disdainfully at the dead Blood Phoenix. Phoenix Blood Immortal Gold. He actually used such material to create a divine crossbow. Long Chen instantly recognized the material. Suddenly, Guoran's crossbow blazed with runes. Long Chen barely sent something fly out before he saw another late 12th rank magical beast get killed. Its skull was as weak as paper in front of Guoran's arrow. Even Long Chen was shocked. Another arrow flew, and the second Blood Phoenix that was about to reach Long Chen was slain by Guoran's arrow. This time, Long Chen managed to see the arrow. It also looked to be made of Phoenix Blood Immortal Gold, but it was too fast for him to see it clearly. "Guoran, nice job. Keep going. Eliminate all the powerful magical beasts on the other side," called out Long Chen. With Guoran's killing tool present, this battle would become much easier. These magical beasts weren't very intelligent and were just moving targets to Guoran. "Thank you for your praise, boss. But I'm sorry to disappoint you. These demon-slaying, evil-warding, heaven-shaking arrows. I only have 3. Guoran scratched his head with embarrassment. "In the future, can you show off all the way instead of stopping midway?" Long Chen cursed. Seeing Guoran's insufferably arrogant arrival, he had thought that Guoran would be able to turn the tables on his own. But it was just a show that lasted only for a moment. "There wasn't enough time. I had too much to do." "There wasn't time to make any more," said Guoran helplessly. All this time, he had been focused on the Dragonblood warrior's weapons and armor. He barely had time just to create these 3 arrows. Just as Long Chen was about to respond, the third Blood Phoenix reached him. As its claw reached toward him, it was whipped away by the Drake. Boom. Guoran unleashed another arrow, this one being golden. It struck that Blood Phoenix's eye, causing it to explode. The Blood Phoenix let out a mournful cry. "You think without my heaven-shaking arrows, you can ignore me?" demanded Guoran. His current crossbow had been upgraded. It was just that he was still using his old arrows. Although they could be used, they weren't as powerful as his new arrows. However, if shot in the eye, there was no way a magical beast could endure it. As that Blood Phoenix writhed in pain, its head was cut off by Long Chen. "Guoran, watch out!" shouted Long Chen suddenly. He saw 2 magical beasts charging toward Guoran. "Damn it, time to run." Guoran hastily fled. He didn't dare to directly face these terrifying 12th rank magical beasts. He hadn't finished his new armor, and his old armor would be destroyed in one attack. Just as Guoran was about to flee, a giant bone club whistled down, sending one of those magical beasts flying. Wild had arrived. Wild's arrival signified that the original devil race's disciples in the mine had been evacuated. Guoran was delighted and shouted, "Brother, well done. Let's work together." Guoran jumped onto Wild's shoulder. Wild had already transformed into a giant, and his power was limitless. He was able to directly face peak 12th rank magical beasts. Being the support, Guoran shot arrows at the eyes, nose, mouths, and throats of the opposing magical beasts. Although he might not be able to slay them, he was able to affect them long enough for Wild's bone club to kill them. The Dragonblood warriors had arrived. Forming into groups of dozens of people, they began to pick out their own targets. Their cooperation was seamless, and the targets they picked for themselves were killed one by one. The Drake race's side was originally at an immense disadvantage, but with Long Chen and the Dragonblood Legion's arrival, they quickly evened things out and gradually began to gain an advantage. Long Chen worked with the Drake King's mate, killing over 10 powerful magical beasts. By this point, the Drake King's mate was covered in wounds. There was no way around it. It was picking out the strongest magical beasts for its targets. To give Long Chen the best chance, every move was practically a suicidal move designed to cause a lot of damage to its opponent at once. That's about enough. You can rest. Seeing that the tide had been reversed, Long Chen flew off on his own. More magical beasts had arrived from the Drake King's side, and the other side's defeat was essentially set in stone. "Wild Guoran, let's kill that big fellow," shouted Long Chen, stepping into the battle between the Drake King and the Blood Phoenix King. Stepping into that region, before even reaching the Drake King and the Blood Phoenix King, Long Chen was buffeted by astral winds that felt like blades against his skin. Why is it that despite being at the peak of the 12th rank, these two are so much stronger than other peak 12th rank magical beasts? Long Chen was shocked. Both the Drake King and the Blood Phoenix King far surpassed the power of the other magical beasts here. They could instantly kill other magical beasts of the same rank. As soon as Long Chen got close, the Blood Phoenix King's feathers stood on end, and rays of divine light shot out at Long Chen. Those rays of divine light shattered the void, breaking the laws of the heavenly Daos. Long Chen hastily dodged, but one of those rays struck his shoulder. Even his Azure Dragon battle armor was unable to block it, and blood splashed. Immense pain came from his shoulder. The wound was deep enough that one could see the bone, and there was some remnant energy trying to wreck his body. Boom! The Drake King's claw smashed down, and the Phoenix Blood King immediately counterattacked. Their huge bodies once more clashed, unleashing terrifying astral winds. Just at this moment, Guoran's arrow flew through the air, but the astral winds blew it away to some unknown spot. "Boss, this one's too powerful. I can't even hit it," shouted Guoran. "Just wait for your chance. Don't blindly shoot," called out Long Chen. Boom! At this moment, Wild charged his way through the astral winds and reached the Blood Phoenix King. He smashed his club down, only to be smacked away by one of its wings. Wild was extremely powerful, but he was unable to do anything to this Blood Phoenix King. It was too strong. No wonder it was able to become the king of the beasts in the other region. Split the heavens 8. Eyeing the Drake King's movements, Long Chen unleashed an attack at a time he judged correct. His saber fell just as the Blood Phoenix King was knocked back by the Drake King. His aim was perfect, striking it right on the throat. However, the scene of his saber slicing through its neck and its head flying away never appeared. Only a mass of feathers whirled away. He only managed to break some feathers and just barely scratch its skin. A bit of blood flowed out. "There's no way to fight." Long Chen's expression changed. Even a perfectly timed attack at its weakest spot was unable to do anything. Being struck in the neck seemed to enrage the Blood Phoenix King. It actually turned toward Long Chen. All its feathers stood on end, and light passed through all of them, condensing in its eyes. A blood-colored divine arrow shot out. That arrow caused the clouds and wind to change color. Long Chen felt the world around him freeze as he was locked in place. The Drake King immediately opened its mouth and unleashed a wave of dragon breath to interrupt the Blood Phoenix King. However, the Blood Phoenix King seemed to have been infuriated and would rather receive the Drake King's attack if it meant it could kill Long Chen. The divine arrow shot out. This was a terrifying attack. If struck, Long Chen would definitely die. The sky was dyed red. However, Long Chen snorted, and a dragon cry rang throughout the world. The frozen space snapped like a tense bowstring. Bloodline pressure? You're far too lacking for that. Like a bolt of lightning, Long Chen shot away, barely avoiding the arrow. It landed in the distance and exploded, creating a giant cloud on the ground. Its shockwaves blew apart countless mountains. At this moment, the Drake King's dragon breath struck the Blood Phoenix King, sending it tumbling back. But the Drake King had also been affected by Long Chen's sudden dragon pressure, weakening its attack. Long Chen immediately retracted his dragon pressure. The Drake King was affected more than the Blood Phoenix King by it. Wild once more charged forward, only to be sent flying once more. Fortunately, Wild's body was truly terrifying and he wasn't injured. However, Wild's attacks were also unable to cause any damage to the Blood Phoenix King, making him howl in rage. Drake King, entangle it. I'll give it a hard attack. Long Chen took a deep breath. Putting away Evil Moon, he clasped his right elbow with his left hand, raising his right arm. A flame lotus condensed in his hand, and chanting rang out from both Long Chen's mouth in the air. It was like gods and devils were chanting along. As the Nirvana scripture activated, flame energy gathered from every direction, creating a giant whirlpool around Long Chen. At the center of the whirlpool was the flame lotus. It rapidly grew larger and larger. A Taiji diagram materialized in the center of it, and then a flame sphere appeared. This was the same world extermination flame lotus he had used at the Mechanism sect. But this time, it was even stronger because he was using the Nirvana scripture to absorb the wild world's energy. It was already 10 times larger than last time. The world was set ablaze. Heaven and earth twisted like it was the apocalypse. That's about enough. Any more and I won't be able to control it. Long Chen looked at the giant flame lotus in his hand and felt a burst of fear. This thing was too dangerous. One mistake and he would end up being killed by it. Last time, he had used Huolong's power to use it. This time, he used the Nirvana scripture. This was his first time using the Nirvana scripture along with the inverse Tao water spirit flame. Unexpectedly, the inverse Tao water spirit flame crazily absorbed all that flame energy without him being able to control it. It was like a hungry wolf. If he didn't control it, it would continue growing limitlessly, devouring him. Even the entire world might be destroyed. This move that Long Chen had invented should be called a forbidden art, for it truly possessed the power to exterminate worlds. This was also why when he had developed the World Extermination Flame Lotus, a heavenly manifestation had descended. It was because this move was capable of threatening the heavenly Taos. While using the heaven incinerating flame to test this move, just going to the 6-star point had made it almost go out of control. Now that he was using the inverse Tao water spirit flame, it was different. It was like he had been controlling a rabbit at first, only to try controlling a dragon now. Fortunately, this was still Huolong's power, so Long Chen could control it. But it was starting to grow unruly with the Nirvana scripture's support. Gua ran, wild, retreat. He couldn't stop the World Extermination Flame Lotus from continuing to absorb flame energy. In just a few more seconds, it would progress to the 2-star level. But then he would lose his life. Wild and Guaran immediately rushed away. Long Chen flung the flame lotus at the Blood Phoenix King. The Drake King had been warned by Long Chen and was prepared. Its scales lit up, and it suddenly shot into the distance. The giant flame lotus smashed through the air. Cracks appeared in the void as the world was unable to bear this terrifying power. The Phoenix Blood King finally felt fear. Its instincts as a magical beast were telling it that if it was struck by that, it would be doomed. It spread its wings, about to flee, but just at this moment, Long Chen's blood chi surged. He activated his dragon might once more, locking it down. In this state, trying to dodge would only quicken its death. The Blood Phoenix King let out a resounding bird cry. Its wings spread open, and its feathers blazed with light. Astral winds surged out of it along with a pillar of light, striking the World Extermination Flame Lotus. This was the Blood Phoenix race's strongest attack. Even the Drake King had to be wary of it. The Flame Lotus exploded. It was like the explosion of a star. At the same time as the dazzling light spread, it was possible to see a black hole appear in the center, which annihilated everything in its midst before vanishing. Long Chen coughed repeatedly, each time spitting out blood. Although this was his attack and he had immediately fled, the World Extermination Flame Lotus's area of effect was too large, causing him to be injured. This time, he had mostly used the power of the world to strengthen it, not Huolong's power, so the World Extermination Flame Lotus's flames no longer recognized him as its master. Boom. The earth split open, and a huge figure shot out, covered in blood. It was the Blood Phoenix King. Its aura was extremely chaotic now. It no longer had any of its mighty aura. All of its feathers had been destroyed, and one of its wings was almost torn from its body. In its heavily injured state, it no longer had an urge to fight. It fled for its life. However, the Drake King, which had long since been waiting due to Long Chen's instructions, slammed its claw through its head. The Blood Phoenix King let out one final cry as it fell from the sky. With its opponent dead, the Drake King let out a mighty roar. The Blood Phoenix King died. The Drake King roared, and all the other magical beasts on its side also roared, like troops raising morale. They began a furious assault on the opposing magical beasts. The magical beasts that had come with the Blood Phoenix King retreated after their leader perished. But the other magical beasts refused to let them off. One side fled, one side chased. The battlefield quickly emptied, leaving behind only giant corpses. Thank you for helping me defeat it. Starting today, I am the king of this entire world. The Drake King thanked Long Chen, with newfound respect for his power. Boss, that technique of yours is amazing. Even that Blood Phoenix was crushed. Who cares about those geniuses of the ancient era? Boss can still crush them. Guoran ran over, shouting excitedly. Don't be stupid. With such a long cast time, do you think others will just watch me use it? It's not as amazing as you think it is because it's easy to interrupt. People stronger than me won't give me a chance to use it, and people weaker than me aren't worth me using this move, said Long Chen. Perhaps against a dumb magical beast, this technique that took so long to cast was passable. Besides, it wouldn't have hit the Blood Phoenix King if Long Chen hadn't unleashed his dragon might to restrict its movements. If a powerful move couldn't strike its target, then it was nothing more than a flashy firework. Really? Even such a powerful move is useless? Guoran cried his disbelief. Fool, there's no undefeatable move in this world, only undefeatable people. Techniques are dead things, but people are living. If you want to live, you have to learn when to use different moves at different times for the best effects. There's no point explaining this to you. Your path is different from ours. Long Chen avoided saying too much since Guoran's cultivation path was different from everyone else's. Leave behind 500 people here to clean up the battlefield. Everyone else, follow me back to the channels to the Devil World. We have to go assist the original Devil race, shouted Long Chen. Are they also fighting on that side? Asked Guoran, startled. Long Chen scolded, Is your head useless for everything other than forging? There was such an intense fight over here, but they didn't come to assist. That means that they couldn't come. Long Chen brought the Dragon Blood Legion over, and as expected, they saw the original Devil race in a fierce clash against the Devil race. This time, several Devil races had come. They had both numbers and many powerful experts. Xihan and Xiaoqian were both using their divine seals to kill them, but there were too many of them. They weren't able to kill all the devils. World Extermination Flame Lotus. Just as the original Devil race was starting to be overwhelmed, chanting filled the air, followed by a shout from Long Chen. A giant flame lotus exploded amongst the Devil race. The terrifying waves devoured the battlefield. Millions of devils were incinerated, with even the stronger ones only being able to struggle for a while before being burned alive. Long Chen had wiped out the majority of the winged devils in one attack. The original Devil race's experts cheered. Their reinforcements had finally arrived. After unleashing that attack, Long Chen turned a bit pale. After using the World Extermination Flame Lotus twice, his spiritual Yuan, his spiritual strength, and his Yuan spirit were all low on power. He felt empty. However, the tides had instantly turned. The Drake King and the Dragonblood warriors also joined in, quickly annihilating the rest of the Devil race. Xiachen was covered in sweat and finally sighed with relief. He had been in charge of the formation and making sure that the devils trying to escape didn't get out. Things had been incredibly chaotic just now, and he had exhausted himself, but fortunately not one devil managed to escape. Long Chen had ordered Xiachen to make the two channels here become only one way. None of the devils that came out could go back to report what was on the other side. If they knew that this place was a trap, it would cut off one of the paths for the original devil race to get stronger, so Xia Chen's responsibility was quite heavy. "Boss, you're finally back. We almost couldn't hold on any longer." Xia Chen smiled bitterly. Guoran explained what had happened on their side, and only then did everyone realize that the battle here had been even more terrifying than the battle with the magical beasts. Long Chen looked at the mountains of corpses of the devil race. He asked, "What happened? Why would so many of them appear at once?" The attack was extremely sudden and quick. These devils aren't from the same race, but they all appeared at the same time. Most likely, they've sensed something on the other side. After all, several groups have entered, but no one's returned, so it naturally draws suspicion. Those few races probably grouped up and discussed it, deciding to charge in together to see what's going on. We were able to hold on at the start, but as more of the devils appeared, we started to run out of energy, weakening the power of our divine seals. "It was truly dangerous," said Yu Shaoqian. "It was incredibly coincidental. Attacks came from both sides at the same time. Despite Long Chen coming in time, over 10,000 of the original devil race's warriors had died. The number of devils that had come this time was dozens of times greater than in the past, and furthermore, there had been many powerful experts amongst them. This is no good. We cannot allow such a thing to happen again." Xia Chen set up an instant transportation formation. "If things get tight here, make it so that a portion of the devils are instantly sent away," said Long Chen. Being able to talk spiritually with the Drake King, he felt it was no problem. The Blood Phoenix King was dead, and there was no magical beast in this world that could match it. They would all have to listen to it. Moreover, the magical beasts were bloody and warlike. It was fine for these devils to be transported to them to fight. The only reason these magical beasts came out to fight under its orders wasn't because they were loyal, but because of the fierce blood flowing in their veins. They liked to fight and weren't afraid of death. If they didn't have a fight after a long time, they would start fighting amongst themselves. The Drake King didn't care about their deaths. Seeing the Drake King nod, Long Chen had Xia Chen quickly set it up. It wasn't too difficult for Xia Chen because the target location wasn't very far. It was just where some of the magical beasts were concentrated. Those magical beasts would automatically go crazy against invaders. There was no need to have someone control them. Other than that, Long Chen set up several other backups just in case. Although there was a supreme expert like the Drake King on their side, for the often unlucky Long Chen, keeping things in reserve was always best. Seeing Long Chen set up one backup after another, Xihan sighed. When it came to stratagems like this, the original devil race was lacking. If the original devil race had a strategist like Long Chen, perhaps they could have reversed the tides a while ago and soared. After arranging things, everyone got back to work. Long Chen asked the Drake King if it wanted to slaughter the nest of the Western Blood Phoenix race, but its response was a bit surprising. It said that it didn't feel any hatred for the Blood Phoenix race. According to it, this was life. Experts died all the time. If you surrendered, you wouldn't be immediately killed. Magical beasts slaughtered each other for food all the time. But they wouldn't exterminate a whole family or race. This was a law they naturally followed. Only then did Long Chen realize why there were so many magical beasts in this world. However, he still felt that something was off. Why would magical beasts respect this rule? Didn't they just act on instinct? Just as he was pondering this, Xihan and Yu Shaoqian came over to his seclusion region. Long Chen hastily went to welcome them. "My mom wants to see the Blood Phoenix King's corpse." Yu Shaoqian went straight to the point. Long Chen was curious, but he simply went to an empty region and plopped out the corpse. Xihan walked over to the corpse and touched its blood. Carefully looking at it and smelling it, she said, "There really is a problem." "What is it?" asked Long Chen. "The Blood Phoenix race is an ancient species. Although they aren't as famous as the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, they're still an extremely powerful existence. However, its bloodline has become muddled, making it no more than a mindless magical beast. How can you explain that? It's not just the Blood Phoenix or the Golden Drake. Many of the magical beasts in this world are actually very famous Xian beasts, said Xihan. Xian beasts? This information was truly shocking to Long Chen. Most of what he knew about magical beasts only pertained to alchemy. He didn't know much else. A surprising proportion of these magical beasts here had reached the peak of the 12th rank. However, due to their impure bloodlines, many of their natural abilities had been lost, and their intelligence was low. However, if they were Xian beasts, then that would be heaven-defying. The Xian beasts possessed terrifying innate divine abilities and intelligence on par with humans. If this many 12th-rank Xian beasts appeared, they would be enough to trample the martial heaven continent. Correct. They should be Xian beasts. However, their bloodline has lost a few inheritance runes, causing them to lose their innate divine abilities. They will never be able to return to that ancestral level. Furthermore, I've checked their crystal cores. They lack a trace of spirituality, making it so they cannot awaken their latent potential. Have you noticed? Many of the magical beasts have runes for divine abilities on their scales, horns, eyes, tails, etc. However, they are unable to use those divine abilities. Now that you say that, I recall that truly is the case. Long Chen slapped his leg. He had always found the magical beasts of this world to be strange. Now that Xihan brought it up, he realized what it was. If my guess is correct, this wild world might be a hunting pasture for the devil race, said Xihan gravely. Then the ones in charge of this pasture? Long Chen's heart pounded. Correct, it's the devil race. They probably released these magical beasts into this world and will come to slaughter them every now and then. I've investigated the two channels. They were activated once 30,000 years ago. Based on a few marks, I've also come to a hypothesis that there was a large battle at that time, but due to how much time has passed, those marks are too vague to confirm anything. But from the Blood Phoenix King's corpse, it is possible to determine that the magical beasts here have been modified by someone. They are like livestock, and once they've grown fat and numerous enough, the devil race will slaughter them. Through this slaughter, they can strengthen their devil chi. The flesh and souls of all creatures are their best supplements. That's why the devil race is like a pack of locusts. Wherever they go, death follows. Through various indications, it's possible to conclude that we've accidentally barged into one of the devil race's pastures, said Xihan. If it's a pasture, then why did different races amongst the devil race come here? Asked Long Chen. Most likely, this world has been lost or forgotten. The devil race probably only noticed it again recently. To them, this is a masterless piece of fat meat, so they all want to take a bite or take possession of it. It's a pity many of the original devil race's resources have been destroyed by the experts of the martial heaven continent. They've attacked the skyscraping world several times, almost destroying it and making us lose many inheritances. We might be able to understand more otherwise. Xihan sighed. I don't understand. Why does the martial heaven continent want you dead? You're clearly capable of suppressing the devil race. You should be allied with the martial heaven continent. Long Chen couldn't help asking this question. This relates to the experts on a higher level. Once you reach that level, I will naturally tell you, or perhaps you will know by then without me saying anything. Telling you now is meaningless and will only rattle your Dao heart, said Xihan. Long Chen sighed helplessly. It seemed that the martial heaven continent was even more complicated than he knew. There were countless secrets hidden in its depths. Alright, then if this wild world is a pasture, then is the martial heaven continent also a pasture for the devil race? Asked Long Chen suddenly. Not just the devil race. Xihan left, leaving behind Long Chen and Xiaoqian. It seemed she didn't want to say too much. Xiaoqian said, Long Chen, don't blame my mother. She definitely has a reason why she isn't telling you. Some things can cause unpredictable karma if spoken about. She does this to keep you safe. Of course, I know my mother-in-law is looking out for me. Long Chen smiled. Your skin is really thick. Who agreed to marry you? Demanded Xiaoqian, blushing. Long Chen arrogantly laughed, making Xiaoqian blush even harder. Her heart had long since been given to Long Chen. However, her skin wasn't as thick as his, and the slightest teasing got good results. Long Chen knew that Yu Xiaoqian had to focus on upgrading her divine seal right now. With every fight, the original devil race was benefiting immensely from slaying the devils. The devil cores were upgrading the power of their divine seals, making their power against the devil race even greater. The more they fought, the stronger they would become. Regretfully, while they were the bane of the devil race, they wouldn't have that kind of advantage against opponents that weren't from the devil race. For example, the human race. After Yu Xiaoqian left, Long Chen extracted the Blood Phoenix King's crystal core, blood, and bones. Those were all treasures. He extracted everything useful from the magical beasts that had died in battle. Wild only needed the meat. Many parts of 12th rank magical beasts were treasures that couldn't be bought with money. Hence, it could be said that a huge amount of wealth had fallen into Long Chen's pocket this time. Day after day passed. Long Chen was refining life star pills all day for the future. He didn't just need to refine them for himself but also the Dragon Blood Legion. It was all in preparation for the Qi Flow eruption. Half a month later, 5 eruptions occurred from the channels to the devil race. There were 3 small skirmishes and 2 immense battles. One of them was an even greater invasion than the last time. However, they were all annihilated by the original devil race. That was because their power had risen crazily, and their divine seals were much stronger. In order to lessen the pressure, they would occasionally activate the formation, transporting a group of devils to the territory of magical beasts. That was like throwing water into boiling oil. The magical beasts went crazy, annihilating the devils. The Drake King said that with the devils constantly invading, there were fewer fights amongst the magical beasts. They now had devils to kill if they were bored. Seeing that everything was under control, Long Chen went over to the Drake King. He asked it to look after the original devil race and gave it a pill. This pill was made of his own essence blood. It was a spirit awakening pill that could raise the intelligence of the Drake King. Hopefully, that would allow the Drake King to awaken some of its talent and advance to the 13th rank. Even magical beasts needed to comprehend the heavenly Taoists to cultivate to their peak. Doing that required a certain amount of intelligence. Humans were the most spiritual of all beings, making them closest to the heavenly Taoists. Whether it wanted to become a true dragon or simply break through, being able to transform into human form would definitely help. This selfless gesture from Long Chen made it even more grateful, and as its intelligence grew, it became even more thankful. It promised not to let anything happen to the original devil race. Long Chen then told Guoran, Xiaoqin, Guyang, and the others to work hard during this time. Xiaoqin especially had to spend the remaining 2 months preparing for the Qi Flow eruption. When the Qi Flow eruption occurred, there would definitely be a competition with countless experts, including those ancient powers. Perhaps there would be a bloody battle. It would all be up to each side's power. Xiaoqian, do you want to go back with me this time? Asked Long Chen. Long Chen wanted to return to the cloud, chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. There was the Drake King here, so everything was under control. Now he was getting a bit worried about that side. After all, with how the Mechanism sect had sneak attacked there before, it was telling everyone that if they wanted to find trouble for Long Chen, they could attack the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. I'm listening to my mom. Before the devil race invades the continent, I have to upgrade my devil seal. That's the only way I can help you in the future. Mom also said. Yu Xiaoqian hugged Long Chen, leaning her head against him. Said what? Asked Long Chen, holding on to her tightly. Her fragrance was bewitching. Yu Xiaoqian smiled mischievously. My mom said that all your women are so strong and are of great assistance to you. If I don't have this little bit of power, I won't be loved as much. Nonsense, I love you from my heart. If it weren't for you, I would have been killed by that Yin Luo in the Julie secret realm. You were my savior. If I didn't give my heart to a beauty like you, I would be letting down the fate that drew us together. Long Chen kissed Yu Xiaoqian's forehead. Yu Xiaoqian wrinkled her nose cutely and glared at him. Bad person. So it was all based on looks? Long Chen laughed. Of course. Isn't everything like that? After being saved, if they weren't good-looking but still wanted your heart, You have to immediately say, "Miss, I cannot, for if I were to marry you, it would taint your act of chivalry. It would be like I needed saving from you because I wanted to force you into marrying me. Wouldn't that make everyone look down on us? But if they were a beauty, then it'd be different. You would immediately say, 'For you to love me like this, I have a responsibility to return your love. If I didn't, wouldn't I be worse than a dog? I will spend this life of mine to protect you for a lifetime.'" The sanctimonious yet realistic way that Long Chen acted made Yu Shaoqian laugh. "I like seeing you seriously talk nonsense." After talking a bit more and confirming that Yu Shaoqian truly wanted to stay behind and wasn't testing his sincerity toward her, Long Chen left. Among all his women, only Tang Wan was actually difficult to handle. She played many tricks that made Long Chen feel cautious. Fortunately, if it was just Tang Wan, he could handle it. To be careful, Long Chen stealthily left the skyscraping world, covering up not just his aura but also his appearance. He made several loops and confirmed that there was nothing questionable before leaving. He flew for about an incense stick's worth of time over the martial heaven searing before encountering two experts wearing the robes of the ancient family alliance. From a distance, he saw that they were Empyreans and most likely searching for the location of the Qi flow eruption. The entire continent was currently searching and hoping to find it ahead of time so they could get an advantage. Long Chen ignored them, continuing to fly toward the central plains. However, while he ignored them, the two of them suddenly turned back to chase him. "Hold it!" Both of them shouted, blocking Long Chen in the sky in a very unfriendly manner. "Don't look for trouble. I haven't killed anyone in a few days, and it's tough holding myself back. If you are in a hurry to reincarnate, I'll send you on your way," said Long Chen coldly. He didn't know if it was his bad luck flaring up again, but as soon as he left the original devil race, just when he was trying to be low-key to avoid exposing his identity, someone disturbed him. The more he didn't want to cause trouble, the more others wanted to find trouble for him. Flames of fury rose inside him. Why was it that so many idiots ended up finding him instead of finding others? Long Chen was wearing a black cloak with the hood covering most of his face. However, his icy killing intent exuded from his words, causing the two men to jump. "Who are you?" probed one of them. "Who are you to ask?" "Scram," snorted Long Chen. Ignoring those ancient family alliance experts, he continued forward. "How brazen! You dare to ignore us!" The one who asked him was infuriated. He summoned his manifestation and unleashed a palm at Long Chen. His hand became red like blood, and his blood qi rumbled like thunder. This was Long Chen's first time encountering such a cultivation technique. However, he didn't care about it. He randomly swung his hand, slapping the infuriated man in the face, sending him flying back while coughing up blood. As soon as Long Chen did it, he regretted it. In this world, the only one capable of such a beautiful slap was him. Hadn't he just exposed his identity? Bastard! The other expert charged at him, but before he could reach him, Long Chen sent him flying with a kick. They were just two Empyreans whose manifestations hadn't even awakened. They weren't qualified to be arrogant in front of him. Even if they were awakened Empyreans, they wouldn't be qualified. "Who are you?" demanded the one who had been slapped. He knew that he had encountered an expert. "Is it any of your business? You aren't fit to know my name. Hurry up and scram. Take advantage while my mood's still decent," said Long Chen indifferently. "Do you know who we are?" At this moment, Long Chen truly noticed something different about them. Although they were wearing robes of the ancient family alliance, they had another mark on their chests, one that looked like a blood-colored tree. Looking carefully, Long Chen saw that it was a Wutong tree. Seeming to notice that Long Chen had finally taken note of that mark, one of them shouted, "We are the Blood Emperor's descendants. You actually dared to attack us. Do you believe me when I say you dash?" The speaker was once more slapped in the face, causing him to cough up more blood. Who cares about descendants of the Blood Emperor? Even the Stone Emperors had the crap beat out of them by me. So do you believe me when I say I'll send you to see your ancestor if you keep talking? Snorted Long Chen. You're Long Chen? Those two ancient family alliance experts instantly paled. Even their voices shivered. Long Chen had destroyed the mechanism sect and then charged his way into the stone race, practically beating Shilingfeng to the point that he had to kneel and beg for mercy. If Nangong Ziyu hadn't come at that time, Shilingfeng would have been killed. So when Long Chen mentioned beating the stone race's descendants, the two of them instantly realized his identity. They also became covered in icy sweat. They might not fear anyone, but Long Chen wasn't just anyone. Others wouldn't dare to kill them, but Long Chen definitely wouldn't mind. Sorry, we were disrespectful. The two of them exchanged a glance and lowered their heads. After all, their lives were more important. There was a homicidal devil king in front of them, and their status couldn't intimidate him. Since you're the Blood Emperor's descendants, does that mean that the heir of the Blood Emperor has also awakened? Asked Long Chen. Yes. The Blood Emperor's own daughter, Shui Luocha, has inherited all the Blood Emperor's divine abilities. We've come out now to sweep away all the other geniuses on the continent. One of them immediately started to become arrogant again. The other one glared at him and said, "Of course, we won't be enemies with Mr. Long Chen. We won't be sweeping you away for sure." Although they felt great respect for their Shui Luocha, she wasn't present right now. Facing Long Chen, they couldn't be arrogant. The Pring Emperor, Blood Emperor, and Stone Emperor's heirs had all come out. It was said that Xie Tianzi had an extremely deep relationship with the corrupt emperor, but Xie Tianzi was especially mysterious, and there weren't many rumors about him. On the other hand, there were quite a few legends about the Blood Emperor. It was said that the Blood Emperor had once fought a sovereign but had been suppressed. Of course, too much time had passed to be sure about any such rumors. It was said that the Blood Emperor had created a new cultivation path with blood at its core. Long Chen had truly sensed a strange energy within the two of their attacks just now. Long Chen continued, "Is Shui Luocha beautiful?" For some reason, the two of them looked at each other oddly and at the same time said, "Beautiful enough to eclipse the moon and shame flowers." Alright, it seems that was a useless question. It doesn't have anything to do with me. Long Chen knew he couldn't draw out any useful information from the two of them. He was about to leave when he suddenly recalled something and asked, "Why did the two of you block me in the first place?" "It's nothing. We just wanted to ask if you've searched this area yet," said one of them awkwardly. They were currently searching for any questionable signs or traces. If they found any place that could be the location of the Qi flow eruption, they would need to immediately report it. If their information was correct, they would get a huge reward. Long Chen immediately understood. The two of them had wanted to force out his secrets. If he had found something, the accomplishment would go to them. Based on their conduct, he estimated that Shui Luocha was no good egg either. The leader was the one who raised the soldiers. "Alright, you can scram. Count yourselves lucky today," said Long Chen, flying off. Seeing him fly off, the two of them sighed with relief. They suddenly realized that their backs were covered in icy sweat. Why would he appear here? Don't you see where he's going? It's the opposite of us. He's definitely also looking for the location of the Qi flow eruption. Everyone's searching for it. We should hurry up too. Let's pick a different path. We won't find anything where Long Chen's already been. Long Chen sped across the martial heaven sea ring. Looking at the endless sea, he suddenly recalled many memories. Back in the day, he had crossed the Eastern Sea on a flying boat to reach the Xian Dao sect. Years had passed since then. He was no longer the same youth. His cultivation base had grown, but he was growing wearier as well. Perhaps that was the price of growth. Even the memory of when he had left the Phoenix Cry Empire with Little Snow replayed in his mind. "Little Snow, are you alright? Will you be the same you once you're reborn?" Little Snow's soul had merged with that mysterious giant egg, but Long Chen didn't know the origins of that egg. He also didn't know what the final result would be. He thought of when he had been hunted by Marking back in the wilds of the Phoenix Cry Empire. Little Snow had been only a few months old but had chased after him to find him, ending up covered in wounds and bitten by a toxic viper. Long Chen had never forgotten that sight. Later on, Little Snow had sacrificed itself to save him. Long Chen had an urge to charge into the Yin Yang world right now just to take a look. However, it was just a thought. He couldn't actually do it. He could only wait for the day that little Snow was reunited with him. Flying over the sea, he saw many other experts flying around rapidly. However, those experts weren't as confident as the other two and didn't stop him. Once he stepped onto land, he quickly found a city. Using the transportation formation, he arrived in the eastern Xian city. From there, he went to the central Xian region. His first stop was the Martial Heaven Alliance. As soon as he arrived, Chu Jianying met him. During this time, more powers from the ancient era have come, each stronger than the last. Amongst them are the descendants of the Blood Emperor. Have you heard of them? I encountered two people who said that they were descendants of the Blood Emperor and wanted to rob me, said Long Chen. Did you kill them? Chu Jianying started. Someone dared to rob Long Chen? Just how blind were they? She estimated that the two of them were already on the path to reincarnation. No, I'm not someone who likes causing trouble. After slapping them a couple of times, I told them to scram. Long Chen waved his hand, indicating that he himself was very low-key. Hearing that, Chu Jianying was a bit more at ease. She did not want Long Chen to be surrounded by enemies. Although last time he had managed to shake the Martial Heaven continent by destroying the Mechanism sect and attacking the Stone race, forcing the Stone race to lower their heads, things were not as quiet as they appeared on the surface. There were countless hidden dangers waiting. But other than that, I should tell you that there's been movement from the danger zone known as the Martial Heaven Searing, said Chu Jianying gravely. The Martial Heaven Searing was a danger zone, but the experts of the continent had to come into contact with it more than they wished. However, those who knew much about it were few. No one knew for sure what lay in the depths of the sea. All they knew was that the Martial Heaven Searing was filled with terrifying sea demons. Furthermore, every now and then, a sea demon tide would come from it. Sea demons would charge onto the continent. Only during that time could the continent's experts slaughter those sea demons without drawing attacks from the stronger sea demons. Normally, when crossing the sea, people would be reserved, and even if they were attacked by sea demons, they wouldn't counterattack. If they disturbed the more terrifying sea demons, that would be troublesome. Has the sea demon race also come out? Asked Long Chen. Yes. The sea demon race has started stepping foot onto the continent. They're searching for the Chi Flow eruption's location as well. A few conflicts have happened between them and the continent's experts. I feel like they are doing this on purpose as a show of might, and to indicate that they will also have their share of the Chi Flow eruption, said Chu Jianying. If the sea demon race had come out, that meant that another opponent with unknown potential had appeared. In fact, the sea demon race might even outnumber the cultivators on the continent. Whether it was the righteous path, the corrupt path, even the ancient races or the Xian beasts, no one dared to provoke the sea demon race. The sea demon race's numbers were absolutely terrifying. They were hidden beneath the sea. No one knew just how many powerful experts they had. If all the large powers fight during the Chi Flow eruption, rivers of blood will flow, sighed Long Chen. Most likely. Based on historical records, the Chi Flow will erupt from the depths of the earth and form a well. The Martial Heaven continent's Chi Flow will turn into thousands of streams bursting out of the ground. Those who can occupy the larger streams will be able to absorb more Chi Flow. The smaller streams will get less Chi Flow. Some won't even be strong enough to occupy a small stream and will only be able to stand in the distance and absorb the leftovers. Legend is that there has always been a bloody battle for the largest stream of Chi Flow. After all, it will determine who becomes the master of the continent. Moreover, this great era seems to be on a much larger scale than in the past. All the geniuses hidden on the continent are coming out to fight for this era. So this time, the competition for the largest Chi Flow stream will definitely be exceptionally intense. Actually, the continent's life forms should unite against the sea demon race because they don't help us. In the past dark eras, they've hidden themselves and didn't help the continent. Not only can we not depend on them, but we have to give up a portion of our Chi Flow. That's unacceptable, said Chu Jianying hatefully. The sea demon race could not be counted as an ally, even if they weren't enemies. They didn't seem to care about the fate of the continent, as if the world at the bottom of the sea would always be safe. However, all people felt some fear toward them because who knew just how great the force they had managed to gather over the years were, especially after not participating in the Dark Eras? In fact, it seemed that the sea demon race had never participated in the chi flow eruption before this. If they had, it wouldn't have been on a large scale. But now there were signs that the entire sea demon race wanted to come out. Did they want an even share of the continent's chi flow? Now it'll be interesting. Longchen smiled. Interesting? Little fellow, do you know just how terrifying the sea demon race is? Chu Jianying held her head. She had been hoping for Longchen to reserve himself upon hearing about these terrifying opponents, but it seemed that he didn't care. Whether they're terrifying or not doesn't matter. If we're fated to be enemies, then we'll meet sooner or later. Rather than focusing on them, it's better to focus on ourselves and get stronger. The old man is correct. In front of absolute power, all schemes are useless. Longchen shrugged. Fine, if you're undaunted, I won't waste my time saying these things. Tell me, do you want to work together with us during the chi flow eruption to occupy a larger stream of chi flow? Asked Chu Jianying. The Martial Heaven Alliance was the continent's largest alliance. They would definitely gather the geniuses of the various sects and occupy a stream of chi flow for themselves. Chu Jianying didn't mind joining forces with Longchen. That way, they could occupy an even larger stream of chi flow. A supreme expert needed to be present to keep the chi flow stream under control. Otherwise, weak people would simply be sent flying by the burst of power. However, Longchen was surrounded by enemies. He would definitely have people fighting him during the chi flow eruption. She didn't quite know what to do about this problem. We won't go with you. The Dragonblood Legion will occupy our own chi flow stream. With how many enemies we have, others who joined us probably wouldn't be able to absorb any chi flow when the time comes, said Longchen. He was clearest on this. When the chi flow eruption occurred, things would definitely be chaotic. No one would give up on this opportunity that only occurred once every tens of thousands of years. Will you be all right on your own? Do you want the Xian Dao sect and the heaven-splitting battle sect's disciples on your side? Asked Chu Jianying. The Xian Dao sect and the heaven-splitting battle sect were extremely powerful now. Bao Buping and Chang Hao had awakened their manifestations, and on the side of the Xian Dao sect, there were Hua Shiyu, Wang Zhen, Mu Qingxian, Su Mo, and others who had awakened their manifestations as well. Chu Jianying didn't know that the reason Hua Shiyu and the others had awakened their manifestations was thanks to Longchen. If he hadn't sent them his 100-flower Dao resonation pills, they would have needed a much longer time to awaken their manifestations. He hadn't told Chu Jianying about the 100-flower Dao resonation pills. It wasn't that he didn't trust her, but that he felt there were definitely traitors in the Martial Heaven Alliance. There were definitely traitors in the Xian Dao sect as well, but just who was Li Tianxian? He could perfectly control the information their enemies received. There was no need to worry about things there. However, Chu Jianying was unable to do the same. After all, an alliance was different from a sect. She needed to publicly announce things according to the rules of the alliance and discuss things with various elders with authority. Longchen didn't want to take that risk. There is absolutely no need. In fact, we won't even go with the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. Don't worry, I am prepared, said Longchen. There were less than 2 months now before the chi flow eruption. Although time was a bit tight, he was confident that Guoran would be able to finish things on his side. Longchen chatted a bit longer with Chu Jianying. He asked about the state of affairs on the continent. More of the ancient era's powers had come out, and amongst them was the 4th everlasting family that had been silent this entire time. The Ximen family had finally come out. It was said that the Ximen family's supreme genius was called Ximen Tianxiong. He had been very famous during his time. He was known for being frank yet also violent. He didn't get along with others very well. The Ximen family didn't seem to have many dealings with the other 3 everlasting families. They seemed antisocial. Other than the Ximen family, there was one other particular person that had appeared. He was a sword cultivator, but he constantly wore a silver mask and had never reported his name. The reason he managed to shake the continent was because he had slain one of the ancient era's geniuses with a single slash of his sword. The person he had slain was someone who had been invited to the gathering of past and present heroes. Hearing that, Long Chen was truly surprised. To be able to kill one of the supreme geniuses of the ancient era with one attack was truly amazing. He had to be a sword cultivator. He saw a radiant Zheng Wenlong. Just as Long Chen had expected, to give a blow to the Dongfang family's business, the Nangong family and the Beitang family had been more than happy to form a collaboration with the Huayan sect. However, the two families were rather conservative. They only traded for things that were useful to them. They wouldn't sell their treasures for something like spirit crystals. In truth, Zheng Wenlong only needed the two families to say that they were collaborating with him to achieve his goals. With just being able to say that he was working together with those two families, he had the confidence to go to other powers for negotiations. Even without taking out any treasures themselves, the Huayan sect was able to act as the go-between, buying and selling things from their connections to make a profit. It looked very easy, but in truth, it was not so simple. What had been missing was the powerful reputation of the everlasting families. Without that prestige, it would have been impossible. The Huayan sect had their own reputation that had been built up little by little. On the business Dao, no one could instantly soar to the top, and even if they did, it would be short-lived. The Huayan sect had managed to achieve their current level by acting in good faith toward all their clients generation after generation. With that reputation and being able to say that he had the Nangong and Beitang families as clients, Zheng Wenlong managed to form connections with dozens of other powers who said that they also wished to collaborate with him. Brother Long, I really have to thank you this time. Without your referrals, I would have had no chance, said Zheng Wenlong. He had gone to the Nangong and Beitang families before, but they hadn't wanted to collaborate because there was nothing in the Huayan sect's hands that they wanted. Although the Dongfang family's actions had made them wary, if it had not been for Long Chen's referrals, they probably wouldn't have wanted to start this collaboration. To put it frankly, it was thanks to Nangong Zhu and Beitang Rushuang giving Long Chen face. Helping you is helping me. So how are things now? Did you get anything I need? Asked Long Chen. Zheng Wenlong had set up a trading platform, and from this, Long Chen could see if there was anything he wanted to trade for. That was truly helping him. Zheng Wenlong suddenly slapped his leg. I almost forgot. The heavenly underworld vermilion fruit that you wanted me to keep an eye out for, there's been some news about it. What? Long Chen almost jumped out of his seat. Yes, the news is that heavenly underworld vermilion fruit is in Tianxiong's hands, said Zheng Wenlong upon hearing that it was in Tianxiong's hands. Long Chen's excitement diminished. If that person learned that Long Chen desperately needed the heavenly underworld vermilion fruit, he would rather destroy it than sell it to him. We have a collaboration with the corrupt path as well. Thanks to the Nangong family and the Beitang family's support, we've pooled the resources of dozens of powers and have started to branch out even further. The corrupt path also wants to be part of that collaboration, but right now, many powers are still in a waiting state. They only take out one or two treasures while merely listing the rest. I saw the heavenly underworld vermilion fruit's name on the list that the corrupt path gave me. I thought I misread it when I first saw it, said Zheng Wenlong. He knew that this matter was very urgent to Long Chen. Every time they met, Long Chen asked about it. Do your best to obtain it. The price doesn't matter. But don't let them know that I'm the one who wants it. Although Long Chen knew that Zheng Wenlong was always steady, Long Chen still said this because the heavenly underworld vermilion fruit was just too important to him. This related to whether or not he would be able to condense the 6th star of the 9-star Ximen body art. I will do my best to get it for you. Zheng Wenlong nodded. Since the corrupt path had put it on their list of treasures, it meant that they were willing to sell it. However, he couldn't promise anything. The corrupt path and the other powers had wily old foxes amongst them. Without taking out something that moved them, they wouldn't make any rash moves. By only taking out one or two treasures and listing the rest, they were probing the Huayan sect's power. If the Huayan sect thought that they could trick them into a useless investment, they were wrong. If the Huayan sect wanted to develop this business, they would need to bring out all their capital. Unfortunately, when it came to treasures on this level, they didn't quite have the power to circulate them. It might take a long time before they could reach that level. But if it's really impossible for you, I'll simply charge into the corrupt path and take it, said Long Chen. He almost couldn't wait. If he didn't lack the power, he would really charge into the corrupt path to take it. Don't, I feel like there's a high chance of success on my side. It's not worth the risk, said Zheng Wenlong hastily. He was worried about Long Chen getting hot-headed. Fine. I'll leave this matter to you. I also brought some stuff for you. They should be useful. Long Chen took out the materials he had extracted from the corpses of the magical beasts in the wild world as well as the ores they had mined. Heavens! The crystal core of a peak 12th rank heavenly Xilen beast, the horn of the full moon earth rhinoceros, the essence blood of the deviled earth dragon, and, this is phoenix blood immortal gold, glorious star mithril. Zheng Wenlong's eyes almost popped out. Long Chen was once more amazed by Zheng Wenlong's learning. He was able to recognize every item that he took out. Long Chen, where did you get these? Sorry, I shouldn't have asked that. Asking other people's personal secrets was naturally taboo. Zheng Wenlong had been so excited that he forgot, and he immediately apologized. Long Chen smiled. We don't need so many taboos between us. I only struck gold within a minor world. I know that even though those fellows agreed to collaborate, they won't go all out at the beginning. If you don't bring out some of your own money, they won't be swayed. Right now, I only have this much of the materials from the magical beasts. As for the divine ores, I can provide you with more in the future. The parts of the magical beasts that he needed had been kept aside. As for the rest, it was valuable but not usable, so Long Chen gave them to Zheng Wenlong. There were hundreds of crystal cores of 12th rank magical beasts, and a tenth of them had reached the peak of the 12th rank. First ignoring just how valuable these were, just being able to take them out was enough to shock a group of people to death. There was also the essence blood, skeletons, and divine ores. Each of them was incredibly precious. Adding on the Huayan sect's own capital, this would be enough for their business collaboration to truly start. The Huayan sect had felt like the weaker one in the collaboration with all these various powers, but with these resources, he was entirely capable of drawing the powers that were still watching into a full collaboration. Good. I hope you can get the heavenly underworld vermilion fruit. Long Chen patted Zheng Wenlong on the shoulder and then left the Huayan sect. If even Zheng Wenlong was incapable of this, then no one else would have a chance either. Long Chen had already decided. If Zheng Wenlong couldn't get it for him, then once he was stronger, he would charge into the corrupt path to take it. Originally, Long Chen had been planning on going to the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, but instead he changed paths and went straight to the entrance to the Yin-Yang world. He quickly reached the boundary into the Yin-Yang world. After that, he took out a special barrier-breaking talisman that Xiachen had given him and crushed it. Faint ripples merged into his body and then vanished. This was a special talisman used for avoiding the senses of formations. It was a kind of concealing talisman, but it was possible to see the user with the naked eye as it was entirely focused on concealing from formations. Long Chen lowered his hood and silently warned himself that if someone provoked him, he would have to kick them or something instead of slapping them. Otherwise, it would be too easy to recognize him. After concealing his aura, he flew closer. He didn't sense anything odd. This place looked the same as before. However, just as he was a few hundred miles away from the channel, the runes covering his body flickered ever so slightly. He had entered a formation. As expected, there's a problem. Long Chen narrowed his eyes. Looking around, he still didn't see anything odd, but the flicker from the runes meant that there was a formation set up by someone here. He wasn't a formation master, so he didn't know any more. The high priest really is amazing. He actually knew that this place would be the location of the Qi flow eruption. So then there's only one possibility for who set this formation up. Long Chen immediately thought of Pill Valley, as well as the strange scene of something trying to extract some of his blood when exiting the Brahma secret realm. Flying around, Long Chen didn't notice anything odd. He knew that whoever had set this formation up had to be a master capable of concealing it from people's eyes. Just as he was about to enter the channel to the Yin-Yang world, a strange force of repulsion appeared, blocking his path. If he forced his way through, he might be sensed by the master of the formation. Not wasting time, Long Chen took a formation disc that Xiachen had given him. He sliced his way through the formation and walked closer to the channel. Back then, one of the Martial Heaven Alliance's Grand Elders had sent him and Yi Lingshan through here, giving them a head start. Now, the channel was replaced with a murky mass of primal chaos. There was mist in the surroundings, making it impossible to see what was inside. This was the entrance to the Yin-Yang world. If the Qi flow eruption occurred here, it might destroy this door. At that time, would the monsters of the Yin-Yang world be able to charge in through the hole? They secretly stole the essence blood of 1,000,000 geniuses to forcibly change the time and location of the Qi flow eruption. Pill Valley, just what are you planning? Long Chen was about to leave when he heard the slightest noise from the mass of primal chaos. It was so faint that he thought it was a misperception. Stopping his footsteps, he turned toward the mass of primal chaos. He vaguely began to see a giant seal inside. The seal was very indistinct, and then it became covered in mist once more. Although it was barely discernible, Long Chen's heart pounded wildly. He had seen that seal before. The faint aura he could sense from it was also familiar. Just at that moment, another light sound rang out from inside, and the seal appeared again. A flash of light pierced the mist, allowing Long Chen to see clearer. It was definitely the sovereign seal. It was red as blood. The power it exuded made Long Chen feel like an ant. There was no way he could be mistaken about this pressure. Only a sovereign could do this. Another light sound rang out, and through the sovereign seal, Long Chen saw a blurry scene. Countless life forms were attacking the sovereign seal. It's the blood race. Although the scene was extremely blurry, he could see the general shape of those life forms. It was the same life forms that had hunted him out of the Yin-Yang world. He saw an endless horde of the blood race's life forms attacking the sovereign seal, unleashing various techniques that crashed against it. Although he couldn't sense their auras, based on the scale of their attacks, he estimated that these attacks were probably comparable to Nether Passage experts. Most shocking of all was their numbers. They seemed endless. The sovereign seal shuddered ever so slightly as it silently endured the attacks. The attacks caused bursts of the sovereign seal's power to erupt, rebounding the attacks. Some of the blood race's life forms were killed. However, more of them replaced the fallen ones. They continued to attack, wave after wave, keeping up a continuous deluge on the sovereign seal. Long Chen was in the midst of staring closely at that scene when he felt a strange energy pull him up. Shocked, without even thinking about it, he slashed Evil Moon at the air above him. Long Chen's saber missed. There was no one in the direction he was being pulled. Shocked, Long Chen was about to unleash all his power to face some mysterious opponent, only to find that he had been pulled into a strange space. From this strange space, he could see the tranquil state of the Martial Heaven continent and also the countless experts of the blood race in the Yin-Yang world attacking the seal. Most shocking of all, when he turned back, he saw a white-robed handsome man quietly looking at him. Sovereign! Long Chen couldn't help letting out a cry. He didn't recognize this person, but he sensed the same sovereign air as he had from Sovereign Yunshang. That was something that made people feel an urge to kneel in worship instinctively. He was standing right there, and yet he also seemed to be looking at him through endless time and space. The river of time seemed to flow within his eyes, and he suddenly smiled. Black clothes. Interesting. The white-robed man's voice was very gentle. This little one is Long Chen. Greetings, Sovereign. Long Chen hastily cupped his fists. He was actually talking with another sovereign. He would be able to brag even more in the future. Ah, the man suddenly laughed openly. Long Chen felt like his thoughts had been read and was embarrassed. The man walked forward and warmly patted his shoulder. Junior brother Long Chen, you're very interesting. It's my first time seeing someone as amusing as you. Being called brother by a sovereign, even Long Chen felt overwhelmed. However, he found that he couldn't feel the sovereign's hand on his shoulder. It seemed that they weren't in the same space-time. Sovereign, For some reason, Long Chen started to feel sad. Don't call me sovereign. I can't accept it. After being blessed by the martial heaven continent, I was unable to change the board, letting down the countless lives of the continent. My name is Emoli, and you can call me by my name, or if you like, you can also call me Big Brother Emoli. Hearing his name, Long Chen finally learned that he was talking to the third sovereign from human history, Sovereign Emoli. Sovereign Emoli actually wanted Long Chen to call him Big Brother. If others learned that, it would drive them crazy with envy. Sovereign. Long Chen tried, but he couldn't make himself call him Big Brother. He felt like that was a blasphemy to the sovereigns. It's fine, you can get used to it later. From you, I see a different future. Although I can't see the final result, I can see hope. Junior brother, I'm very happy to have seen you. Perhaps what I failed to accomplish you can do, said Sovereign Emoli. Sovereign Emoli, you shouldn't raise me up like that. I'll probably never be able to reach the height that you and Sovereign Tianxiong reached. You were unrivaled, with no opponents in the entire world, while I am surrounded by enemies throughout the world, said Long Chen with a bitter smile. Sovereign Tianxiong had also once said something similar to him. Having no opponents in the world is good, but being surrounded by enemies throughout the world is fine too. That's not important. What's important is the result. We were unrivaled, but we weren't able to accomplish our goals. Perhaps being surrounded by enemies in the world might accomplish something new, said Sovereign Emoli. Just at this moment, this space shivered. Long Chen looked in the distance to see that hundreds of thousands of the blood race's experts had unleashed a simultaneous attack. At the same time, Long Chen realized where he was. He was within the Sovereign's seal. Sovereign Emoli looked at the blood race's experts and indifferently said, Heaven and earth are like a board. Whether you are in or outside the board, once you are absorbed within, you become nothing more than a game piece. Why be so emotional? Sovereign Emoli seemed to be giving him some pointers, but Long Chen didn't understand. He asked, Sovereign Emoli, what's the origin of this blood race? Back when you reached your peak, why didn't you wipe them out? Sovereign Emoli smiled and looked at him. Because I didn't have that power. I don't believe you. Ha. Sovereign Emoli was startled at first and then laughed. You really are interesting. It's just a pity that we weren't born in the same generation. It is the truth. Sovereign Tianxiong was unable to find the key to resolving the problem. He handed the problem to Sovereign Qingsu, and Sovereign Qingsu left the problem to me. I also couldn't find the key, so I could only leave it for the person after me. All the way to now, the problem has yet to be resolved. So I can't accept being called sovereign by you. None of us were able to accomplish our mission. Is it really such a difficult problem? Long Chen was befuddled. If even the sovereigns were unable to resolve things, then did that mean that the blood race had even more terrifying existences within them? Once you reach that moment, perhaps you will understand. Different people can see the same problem in different ways. There was a lock, but 5 keys were unable to open it. We're waiting for the next key, said Emoli, looking at Long Chen expectantly. Don't look at me. I'm definitely not that key, and I don't have the kind of nobility of the sovereigns that cared about others. If others refuse to acknowledge me, then I'm not going to risk my life for them. Long Chen hastily shook his hand. The successive generations of sovereigns had managed to win over the whole world to face the enemies from outside the continent. They had protected the entire martial heaven continent and all life on it. It could be said that the sovereigns were the protective gods of the martial heaven continent. Even the corrupt path, the ancient races, and the Xian beasts didn't dare to be the slightest bit disrespectful to the sovereigns. Even the geniuses of the everlasting families like Nangong Xiu and Beiting Rushuang worshipped the sovereigns. That was how supreme their existence was. They had not just protected the human race, but all life on the continent. In this world, the only ones capable of obtaining the approval of all races were the sovereigns. Although there were the 3 emperors below the 5 sovereigns, although it was said that the 3 of them possessed the power to challenge the sovereigns, it was only a nod toward their power. Even the emperors were unable to be like the sovereigns, gaining the approval of all the life forms on the continent. They only gained the approval of a portion. That was the difference. Long Chun could never become an existence like the sovereigns, nor did he want to. He had seen Sovereign Yunshang, and now he had seen Sovereign Emoli. He knew he lacked the heart of the sovereigns. If someone messed with him, he might let them mess around if they weren't ugly. But if he found them displeasing, he would send them flying with a slap. He wanted to live a life of freedom, and he would offer up his life for the people who loved him, but as for others? What did they have to do with him? Sovereign Emoli smiled and didn't retort. He said, "Up to you. Every person has their own path. There is no right or wrong, only different conclusions. My seal has remained up until now, so it can count as having finished its mission. To be able to see you has made me very happy, but my power is running out. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?" Long Chen was startled. Sovereign Emoli was about to dissipate? He hastily asked, "Sovereign Emoli, do you have any techniques you can teach me?" If he could learn the techniques of the sovereigns, then that would really be amazing. It was said that every sovereign had created their own unique heaven-shaking divine art, but nothing about them had been transmitted down. Sovereign Emoli shook his head. "My techniques are only usable by myself. You are the same. You already have a technique on this level, and although it's not fully developed, it will reach perfection sooner or later. If someone else wanted to learn that technique, do you think you could teach it to them?" He already had a technique on that level? Long Chen suddenly thought of the world extermination flame lotus. Would it possess the same level of power as a sovereign's technique once it was perfected? "Sovereign Emoli, do you know the origins of the 9-star Ximen body art?" asked Long Chen quickly. Sovereign Emoli's body was starting to fade. "I do." "Then can you tell me?" "I cannot." "Why?" "I am not qualified." Sovereign Emoli faded away after that. Long Chen's expression was lifeless. Even a sovereign was not qualified to speak of it? Was it really so exaggerated? Long Chen found himself outside the sovereign seal once more. He was staring into the mist ahead of him, only vaguely able to see the sovereign seal within. It was like everything had been an illusion. Long Chen was silent as waves battered his heart. Just what kind of origins did the 9-star Ximen body art have that even a sovereign was unwilling to expose any of it? Long Chen looked at the sovereign seal and the blood race's experts that were attacking it. A single seal was able to suppress the blood race for who knows how many millennia. The sovereigns were truly existences that could only be looked up to. Long Chen sighed. He had now seen 3 of the 5 sovereigns, but rather than feeling delight at that, he was growing more worried. Someone's come. Long Chen had taken a few steps in preparation to leave when he suddenly felt a sense of danger. Looking around, he immediately vanished. Long Chen had just vanished when 2 figures materialized. Both of them wore gray robes and masks, and their hair was already white with age. The 2 of them were nether passage experts. They held a gourd, but based on the bulging veins on their hands, it was extremely heavy. After bringing that gourd to the entrance to the Yin-Yang world, they placed it there and made some hand seals. Then, the runes on the gourd lit up. A torrent of blood burst out of the gourd and struck the sovereign seal. The blood instantly transformed into blood mist upon contact with the sovereign seal. That mist then slowly invaded the sovereign seal. After doing that, the 2 of them took the gourd and left. They didn't say a word from the start to the end. Long Chen slowly walked out from behind a boulder. Looking at the sovereign seal, Long Chen could feel killing intent creep into his eyes. That blood they had just poured out was composed of the essence blood from billions of different entities. Merging it into the sovereign seal would dilute the sovereign's blood seal, weakening it. It really is those bastards from Pill Valley. Although the 2 of them had concealed their auras, as a fellow alchemist, he could sense the air of alchemists around them. They intentionally drew the chi flow eruption here and are damaging the sovereign seal. Are they colluding with the blood race? Long Chen's expression was dark. If that was the case, Pill Valley might be traitors of the human race. But that also felt wrong. Pill Valley had the inheritance of Lord Brahma and fallen Dainate. Why would they collude with other races? Wouldn't that be betraying their gods? It doesn't matter. What matters is power. Don't you want to take advantage of the chi flow eruption? Let's see if you can. Long Chen slowly vanished. Not long after Long Chen vanished, 3 more figures appeared. Their leader was the Valley Master, Xiaoyan. The other 2 were incredibly old, doddering elders. Their faces were covered in wrinkles. These 2 elders lacked any aura. It was like they were already dead. Their eyes were murky. "You said there were suspicious fluctuations here?" asked Xiaoyan. The 2 elders nodded. It seemed that they were so old that they didn't have the energy to speak. Xiaoyan pointed and space twisted. Scenes began to appear. They saw a strange figure that was very indistinct. After that, they could see the 2 masked elders who had appeared with the gourd. The 2 of them were very clear in comparison. "It's Long Chen." Seeing that indistinct figure, Xiaoyan was surprised. It wasn't that he had recognized Long Chen, but that the Brahma divine diagram had sensed his aura. A sense of unease rose in his heart. Why would he appear here? One of the elders made a throat-cutting gesture. It seemed that he wanted to kill Long Chen to keep him quiet. "He's too slippery. Without absolute assurance, we can't make a move. If he catches hold of any evidence to use against us, it will be troublesome. Moreover, the formation set up here isn't one from the Martial Heaven continent. No one would be able to suspect us. If we did react to this, it would be equivalent to admitting that it was us. Let's just observe for 2 days before doing anything. If there is no news from the Martial Heaven Alliance during those 2 days, it means that Long Chen isn't planning on sharing this secret with anyone else. We can think of something to eliminate him then." Xiaoyan left with the 2 elders. The sovereign's seal faintly appeared within the entrance to the Yin-Yang world, seeming to be an indifferent bystander. Long Chen wasn't able to stay calm as he left the entrance to the Yin-Yang world. Just what was Pill Valley's goal in doing this? Just how did this benefit them? If he could obtain proof, he could completely destroy Pill Valley and turn them into the continent's enemy. However, Pill Valley had come prepared. There was no evidence for him to use against them. Whether it was the extraction of people's essence blood in the Brahma secret realm or their arrangements in front of the Yin-Yang world, there was no substantial evidence that would point out that this was done by Pill Valley. The essence blood extraction in the Brahma secret realm had been extremely stealthy. Even Long Chen had barely sensed it, let alone others. As for what was happening in front of the Yin-Yang world, saying it was done by Pill Valley would just be empty words. Pill Valley wouldn't admit to it. Long Chen stealthily returned to the cloud, chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race's territory. He then saw that the Dragonblood warriors had managed to awaken their manifestations. Every one of them looked eager for a fight. "Boss!" The Dragonblood warriors immediately ran over to Long Chen excitedly. "What, are you thinking of exchanging a few blows with me?" Long Chen smiled as he looked at these brothers of his. "How could we dare? Boss, I heard the brothers on that side are busy with work every day. Don't you think it's wrong for us to be lazing over here? We feel bad for them," said one of the squad leaders. "Give it up. You're more interested in the daily battles they get to have, right?" said Long Chen, laughing. Feeling bad for them? It was clearly jealousy. "Don't be impatient. You will also have a chance to go. We'll rotate through people so that everyone gets a chance," said Long Chen. The current wild world was a treasury for Long Chen and also a training ground. Not only were there magical beasts, but there was also the devil race. Good stuff like that naturally had to be shared with everyone. To avoid drawing other people's attention, Long Chen had asked Xiachen to establish a transportation formation capable of crossing worlds. Naturally, it was expensive to construct a world-crossing transportation formation. When the Xiantian Dao sect had been reconstructed, Long Chen had added a world-crossing transportation formation to the spirit world. In truth, the only reason such a formation could be created was because the leader of the spirit race had given him one of the life god tree's leaves that allowed him to connect with the spirit world. The spirit race's leader had to use the energy of the life god tree to create an opening through the barrier between worlds. Long Chen had set up a one-way transportation formation to the spirit world in case the Xiantian Dao sect met enemies that it could not resist. Later on, when Xiachen joined, he had modified the formation to be two-way. This formation had never been used up to now. That was because activating it cost an immense price. However, to the current Long Chen, this price was now bearable. Soon, he would start building a transportation formation from the cloud, chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow races territory directly to the wild world. Although the price was exorbitant, it would allow them to avoid going through the skyscraping world, reducing the chances of the original devil race being exposed. Hearing that they could go to the wild world later, the Dragonblood warriors cheered. Thereafter, Long Chen went into the seclusion area. Long Chen had just arrived when Meng Qi jumped into his embrace. Long Chen spun her around a few times happily. Meng Qi, have you awakened your manifestation? Yes, it counts as awakened, said Meng Qi, still holding on to Long Chen with an enchanting smile. Counts as awakened? What does that mean? Asked Long Chen. I can summon my manifestation, but the name of my manifestation has yet to appear in my mind, said Meng Qi. Heavens! Long Chen's jaw dropped. Are you saying that your manifestation is one of those legendary heaven's soul manifestations? When a manifestation was fully awakened, its name would automatically appear in the cultivator's mind. However, there was a kind of manifestation that required a second awakening. It was called a heaven's soul manifestation. It was said that these manifestations were condensed from the very soul of the heavenly Daos, making them the strongest of all manifestations. He had even heard that these legendary manifestations had rankings. Only the top 100 manifestations were heaven's soul manifestations. Legend had it that people with these manifestations could ascend to become gods or immortals in the future. Long Chen had never imagined that Meng Qi would have such a chance. He fiercely kissed her and praised, Meng Qi, you really are my good wife. You're amazing. Meng Qi blushed but was also proud. This manifestation would become a powerful support for her. Meng Qi said that although her manifestation had not gone through its second awakening, her spiritual strength had completely transformed. It was said that those who completed the second awakening of a heaven's soul manifestation would comprehend their own unique heavenly Tao divine arts. Those divine arts were capable of shaking heaven and earth, making ghosts and gods weep. But no one knew any details about it because there were very few historical records of anyone possessing a heaven's soul manifestation. What about Chu Yao, Wen'er, and Jiqiu? Have they awakened? Asked Long Chen. Not yet. For them to still not have awakened, it's very likely that they also have heaven's soul manifestations. Hehe, are you happy? Chortled Meng Qi. I'm happy, very happy. Long Chen laughed. This was the best news. You'll have to be more obedient in the future, or Wan will put you in your place and we won't help you, teased Meng Qi. Long Chen laughed. Once Tang Wan'er became stronger, he would have to behave better around her. Long Chen checked on Chu Yao, Tang Wan'er, and Yi Jiqiu. He only looked at them from a distance to avoid disturbing them. They were surrounded by primal chaos. Light from the heavens blessed them. Long Chen was full of expectations for them. On the 7th day after he returned, the Wild World's transportation formation was set up, and Long Chen was just about to have Meng Qi and the other Dragonblood warriors enter when a sudden challenge came. Seeing the challenge, Long Chen stared blankly. Just who would issue a written challenge to him? When he opened it, he found that the challenge wasn't issued toward him but to Wuchen. 3 days from now, in the central plains end of the Heavens Valley, Jian Wuchen of the Heavenly Sword sect challenges Wuchen. Who is Jian Wuchen? Why would he challenge Wuchen? Seeing the challenge, none of the Dragonblood warriors understood. This Jian Wuchen is that masked sword cultivator who slew a supreme genius from the ancient era with one stroke of his sword, said Long Chen, his expression serious. He had heard of this person from Chu Jianing. A sword cultivator. Was this why he wanted to challenge Wuchen? On the continent, the current brightest star of the junior generation's sword cultivators was Wuchen. Will Wuchen accept the challenge? Wondered Meng Qi. Since the other side has issued such a challenge, he must be confident. Perhaps there's some unknown reason behind this. Long Chen clenched his fists. Long Chen, what are you thinking? Asked Meng Qi upon seeing Long Chen frown. This matter is coming too suddenly. Why would someone issue a challenge when the Qi flow eruption is right around the corner? Long Chen shook his head, feeling an intense feeling of danger. Then what should we do? Asked Meng Qi. We'll keep acting according to normal. 3 days from now, I'll go take a trip to see what's going on, decided Long Chen. The Dragonblood warriors were a bit disappointed that they wouldn't be going, but they listened to his decision. Just at this moment, the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race's transportation formation lit up. 3,000 Dragonblood warriors appeared on it. "Ha, you're finally back. Now it's our turn." The Dragonblood warriors on this side cheered. The transportation formation had finally been successfully set up. This was all thanks to Xiachen. Perhaps Xiachen had worked himself to the point of white foam coming out of his mouth. He was really busy. "Alright, it's your turn. Hurry and get onto the transportation formation." Activating a double-sided transportation takes up a huge amount of energy. "Don't waste time," shouted Long Chen. The Dragonblood warriors on this side rushed over like a swarm of bees. The transportation formation was starting to shudder, and Long Chen was truly worried it wouldn't work. However, his worries were for naught. After a few seconds, space twisted, and those Dragonblood warriors vanished. The 3,000 Dragonblood warriors finally had a chance to rest. They had exhausted themselves, constantly fighting magical beasts or the devil race. Their taut nerves could relax at last. Xiachen's really amazing. He was able to set up a transportation formation to move so many people, praised Meng Qi. Xiachen was now someone the Dragonblood Legion couldn't lose. He was very important to them. The barrier between worlds will need to heal. To activate this formation again will need at least 7 days. Meng Qi, sorry, I wanted you to go too, but I'm a bit worried about the people here. Long Chen looked at Meng Qi apologetically. Originally, he had wanted Meng Qi to go to the wild world and subdue a few magical beasts as house pets. With her powerful spiritual strength, she could control an army of them. That would make her power rise to a terrifying level. However, Chu Yao, Tang Wan, and Yi Zhiqiu were all in seclusion, and there were only 3,000 Dragonblood warriors here. Long Chen wasn't entirely at ease with just them here, so he had Meng Qi stay. Having not discussed this with Meng Qi or even asked her opinion about it, Long Chen felt himself to be too tyrannical. A few days earlier or later won't make a difference. With Wan and the others still in seclusion, I couldn't go even if you wanted me to go. Meng Qi smiled sweetly, knowing that Long Chen did care about her. How is Cloud these days? I haven't seen her in a long time. I even missed that girl. Long Chen smiled. Cloud had been in the myriad spirit diagram for a long time now. She's already in the final stages. However, to comprehend the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race's strongest divine abilities and fully awaken her bloodline will probably take at least a month, said Meng Qi. She was also full of expectations for Cloud. The myriad spirit diagram contained the strongest divine abilities of all kinds of races. Due to absorbing the blue-eye peacock's essence blood, Cloud's blood had transformed, returning to an ancestral state. She was the only one who had a chance to awaken her ancestors' strongest divine abilities. If she did, she would be incomparably powerful. Originally, Long Chen was planning on accompanying Meng Qi during this time and just peacefully passing the days. He rarely had time to accompany her. However, Meng Qi, who understood what he was thinking, took the initiative in asking to refine pills with him. With the two of them working together, Long Chen was shocked to find that Meng Qi's spiritual strength was now several times stronger than his. Furthermore, her spiritual strength was incredibly pure. Even without summoning her manifestation, her power had risen to a shocking level. With Meng Qi's help, his efficiency in refining the Life Star pill soared. He practically didn't have to exhaust any of his own spiritual strength. Meng Qi's spiritual strength was replenishing itself as she used it. With her present, he could refine forever. On this day, Long Chen finally came out of seclusion. Everything within the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race was calm. They were all quietly cultivating. Long Chen told Meng Qi and the others to stay on guard. Although the large powers were unlikely to start any battles with the Qi flow eruption imminent, they still had to be careful. Long Chen left, going straight toward the end of the Heavens Valley. It was a very famous location on the Martial Heaven continent because many battles between experts had been fought there throughout history. The end of the Heavens Valley was located in the southern Xian region and was to the south of the Skywood Divine Palace. When Long Chen flew by the Skywood Divine Palace, he saw the palace master speaking to the disciples about something. Due to the protective formation, he couldn't hear what they were saying, but as he flew by, the disciples all looked up and saw him. Long Chen's flying boat was no longer the one he had plundered from Pill Valley, but a special dragon-head flying boat that Guoran had made especially for him. It was like a golden dragon soaring through the sky and was very easy to recognize. Long Chen stopped and bowed to the Skywood Divine Palace's master from a distance. This was a bow in thanks for how she had treated Chu Yao like her own daughter for so many years. The Skywood Divine Palace's disciples all became emotional. Long Chen was the strongest and most famous expert of the current era. He was capable of competing with the heavenly geniuses of the ancient era and even came out on top. Due to various factors, Long Chen could be considered related to the Skywood Divine Palace due to Chu Yao. This bow made the palace master smile slightly. Long Chen was still the old Long Chen. Even the endless slaughter that followed him hadn't changed that wild yet pure heart. After this bow, Long Chen smiled and waved to the disciples before continuing onward. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen is so handsome. I feel like we should call him brother-in-law. Doesn't that sound closer? He's big sister Chu Yao's husband after all. With his support, it would be easier for us to roam the continent in the future. The majority of the Skywood Divine Palace's disciples were female, and they immediately began to chatter. Cough. At this point, one of the elders loudly coughed a few times, and only then did the disciples reserve themselves a bit. The palace master smiled looking at the excited disciples. Fortunately, Long Chen wasn't in the Skywood Divine Palace, or these disciples of hers might not even have the desire to keep cultivating. My Skywood Divine Palace does not participate in worldly affairs, but we cannot miss the chi flow eruption. Sometimes it's important not to pass on our responsibilities to others. I've gathered you today so you can see a battle between true experts, said the palace master. The disciples immediately began to cheer, causing one of the elders to sternly shout, "Silence! The palace master hasn't finished talking." Once people were quiet, the palace master continued, "Normally, I only ask that you calmly cultivate. I tell you not to cause trouble. This is to cultivate your heart. Being able to control your mental state is beneficial to your advancement. After all, the disciples of the Skywood Divine Palace are wood cultivators, and slaughter is against your cultivation techniques. However, this does not represent that the Skywood Divine Palace can escape battle forever. When the Martial Heaven continent is in danger, we also have to bring out our own power. We cannot let an opportunity to strengthen ourselves go by. We have no intention of fighting against others, but we will not allow others to take away what is ours. I know some disciples from other sects have been provoking us these days, but I have not permitted you to attack them. That is because experts must know restraint. It is easier to counterattack when you patiently wait for an opportunity. You all saw, Long Chen is going to a battle between two sword cultivators. It is now time for the Skywood Divine Palace to make a collective move as well. We'll show the world our power, or many people will want to bully us when the chi flow eruption occurs. The palace master slowly stood. She waved her sleeve, and 18 beautiful women wearing emerald green robes also stood behind her. Move out. The end of the Heavens Valley. It was a land of death where nothing grew, and it was all hard stone with countless cuts and scars. These scars were left behind by the various experts that had fought here. Their remnant aura made it so no vegetation could grow here. Let alone vegetation, no insects or beasts would dare to get near here. They would be slain by the broken remnant laws. When Long Chen arrived, he saw a sea of people had gathered around the valley. Experts from various sects and powers had surrounded this place. Clearly, news of Jian Wuchen's challenge of Yu Zifeng had spread throughout the continent. A match between peerless sword cultivators wasn't a show that anyone wanted to miss. Startled cries rang out when Long Chen's golden flying boat appeared. Long Chen's come. Yu Zifeng is the 4th captain of the Dragonblood Legion. I wonder if Long Chen will make a move when the time comes. Unlikely. After all, Jian Yuchen is challenging Yu Zifeng. Unless Yu Zifeng doesn't come, no one will have a valid reason for interfering in their battle. Jiang Wuchen has never faced defeat. He's a genius who dominated a generation. As for Yu Zifeng, he's a brilliant genius, but he's from the junior generation. He hasn't reached the same level of prestige as Long Chen, so why would Jian Wuchen challenge Yu Zifeng? Isn't that a case of bullying the weak? That's true. Yu Zifeng is just a captain of the Dragonblood Legion. Jian Wuchen's challenge is a loss of status. You're all unaware. In truth, Yu Zifeng and Jian Wuchen are from the same sect. An old man suddenly opened his mouth. What? How is that possible? It's true. Jian Wuchen was once a disciple of the Heavenly Sword Gate, said the elder. If they're from the same sect, why would they want to kill each other? Because Jian Wuchen was expelled from the sect as a renegade. The elder's words shocked everyone. Jian Wuchen was actually a disciple of the Heavenly Sword Gate? But then why were there no rumors about it? The Heavenly Sword Gate is rather isolated and rarely interacts with the rest of the continent, entirely immersing itself in the way of the sword. They only have a few disciples and experts, so people don't know much about them. But it is a fact that Jian Wuchen was a disciple of the Heavenly Sword Gate. There is a historical record of it. However, as to why the Heavenly Sword Gate would expel such a genius from their sect, no one knows, said the elder. Hearing that, people came to their own guesses about why Jian Wuchen would challenge Yu Zifeng. Was it to humiliate the Heavenly Sword Gate? If that was the case, Jian Wuchen must feel quite the hatred for the Heavenly Sword Gate. Long Chen over here. Long Chen's flying boat had just arrived when someone called out to him. Long Chen turned to see the fiery-figured Beitang Rushuang. Long Chen flew over and put the flying boat away. Before he could even open his mouth, Beitang Rushuang hatefully said, "Let me first warn you not to bring up anything romantic, or I'll shoot you into a sieve." Long Chen laughed. It seems that those words of his truly possessed destructive power. He actually made Beitang Rushuang afraid of them. Long Chen, this Jian Wuchen is quite powerful. Do you feel like your subordinate can win? Asked Beitang Rushuang. Let's make one thing clear first. Yu Zifeng isn't my subordinate but my brother. As for whether or not he can win, I don't know either. All I know is that Yu Zifeng's comprehension of the Sword Dao is the most terrifying of everyone I've known. There shouldn't be a problem, said Long Chen. Do you know how strong Jian Wuchen is? Beitang Rushuang told Long Chen about Jian Wuchen's history. Based on what I've heard, the reason Jian Wuchen was expelled is because he didn't listen to his master's orders. He secretly went into the Heavenly Sword Gate's inheritance land and learned the Sword God Dao Canon. Why would he do that? As long as he stayed within the Heavenly Sword Gate, wouldn't he have learned it sooner or later? Asked Long Chen. I don't know. This information isn't entirely solid, said Beitang Rushuang. Only the Heavenly Sword Gate would know the exact details. But what I heard was that he was still at the Xiantian realm when he was expelled. I don't know if he encountered some miracle or if it was enlightenment from the Sword God Dao Canon, but his sword arts suddenly progressed explosively, allowing him to dominate his generation. In his era, he was an unrivaled existence. I heard he went to the Heavenly Sword Gate a second time, begging to be accepted, but the Heavenly Sword Gate locked their doors and refused to see him for 3 days and nights. It is said that in his fury he swore to kill all the Heavenly Sword Gate's disciples. As a result, the sect master of that time personally went out to kill him in response, but it's unclear what happened afterward. Some say that Jian Wuchen was killed by the Gate Master, while others say that the Gate Master had mercy in the end and decided to accept him into the Heavenly Sword Gate. Either way, there are plenty of stories and no way to verify them. All that can be said is that after that, Jian Wuchen never reappeared in the world until now. I didn't expect that he would also have been sealed. He has regained the arrogance of a sword cultivator and slain quite a few people. It seems that this Jian Wuchen isn't a good egg then, muttered Long Chen. Someone who would betray his sect and then curse the sect that had given him everything he had was definitely garbage. Although he didn't know much about the Heavenly Sword Gate, He knew that Ling Yunzi had joined it, and that Yu Zifeng could be considered Ling Yunzi's disciple, making him also a disciple of the Heavenly Sword Gate. With Long Chen's understanding of Yu Zifeng, he knew that if Yu Zifeng didn't feel any respect for the Heavenly Sword Gate, he wouldn't have accepted going there. I've seen him before. He is incredibly arrogant. It's irritating how he acts like everyone should be beneath his sword. If only I had a reason to, I really would want to test him. Beitang Rushuang patted the bow on her back. Clearly, Jian Wuchen hadn't left a good impression on her. However, by patting the bow, waves appeared on her chest. Long Chen took the sight in. Beitang Rushuang wore skin-tight black leather armor which clung tightly to her skin. That made Long Chen swallow hard. Brat, you want to die, is that it? Where do you think you're looking with your perverted eyes? Beitang Rushuang clenched her fists and waved one of them beneath Long Chen's nose menacingly. Miss Beitang, your body is really amazing. Do you have some kind of secret art you can teach my women? Long Chen ignored Beitang Rushuang's threat and praised her. Ooh, you pervert. Beitang Rushuang turned red. Long Chen was absolutely shameless, and he didn't bother concealing it at all. Don't curse others. This is innate. Praising a beauty for the truth is better than sweet-talking, right? Don't be so stingy and share, said Long Chen shamelessly. Bastard, this is all natural, raged Beitang Rushuang through clenched teeth. Countless experts had secretly drooled over her, but no one had ever come up to her and asked her for advice on such a matter. Fortunately, there wasn't really any pervertedness in Long Chen's eyes, or Beitang Rushuang might really bring out her bow and shoot holes through him. How regretful, sighed Long Chen. Bastard, if you keep looking, I'll tear your eyes out, warned Beitang Rushuang. Long Chen obediently pulled his gaze back. It was difficult because her body was extremely eye-catching. Looking behind her, Long Chen saw dozens of young disciples from the Beitang family, all of them being awakened Empyreans. Although they concealed their auras, Long Chen could still sense a powerful pressure from them. They were all experts amongst experts. However, most of them were men, and they were glaring at Long Chen coldly with a trace of hostility. Long Chen realized that his teasing had been heard by them. It seemed that they were very dissatisfied with how he treated Beitang Rushuang. On the other hand, the few women didn't show any hostility. Instead, they seemed to be curious. Perhaps they couldn't imagine how this sloppy fellow before them was the Long Chen that had shaken the entire continent. Have you been busy lately? Beitang Rushuang relaxed slightly once Long Chen wasn't looking at her so hotly. Me? I'm not busy. I've repented and mended my eyes. I'm no longer killing people. I read some books and drink some tea. A while ago, I suddenly had an impulse to go chat with a sovereign about life, said Long Chen. The women behind Beitang Rushuang laughed, while the men looked at him disdainfully. You shouldn't brag every time you open your mouth. Good friends don't talk that way, said Beitang Rushuang. What? I'm not bragging. It's the truth. Fine, you don't have to believe it, said Long Chen indifferently. Can a person die from not bragging for a day? Tell me then, which sovereign did you go find for a chat? Asked Beitang Rushuang. It was with Dash. Suddenly, a ruckus occurred in the distance. Long Chen looked over and his jaw dropped. Why would he come here? A handsome man with a bow was walking through the air gracefully. His every move possessed the air of an expert. Unfortunately, the trace of baby fat left on his face and the unconcealable shamelessness in his eyes broke that image. This person was someone that Long Chen hadn't seen in a long time, Embark. Embark swaggered over. Just the way he walked made people feel an urge to slap him. Embark's arrival caused a huge ruckus. It was like cold water had been thrown into a pot of boiling oil. Countless people glared at him while clenching their teeth furiously. They looked like they wanted to tear him apart. 10 years I wandered with my bow, my arrows causing heaven and earth to shake. The 9 heavens, 10 lands, and all the universe will revolve around me. Only I, Embark, will rise to glory. Embark recited his shameless phrase once more. Hearing it gave Long Chen goosebumps. Fuck you, Embark, I'll kill you. One of the ancient family alliance's experts pounced at Emonian like a vicious wolf. His eyes were completely red. The experts of the ancient family alliance weren't the only ones infuriated by his appearance. Almost half of the experts present charged toward him. It was a shocking sight. Emonian, you irredeemable fiend, how dare you rob my family's ancestral tomb? I'll tear you to pieces. Emonian, I'll eat your flesh, drink your blood, and grind your bones to dust. Emonian, your evil deeds have brought your death today. Those experts looked so angry that it was a bit frightening. It was like they were seeing the person that had slain their father. He's Emonian? Asked Beitang Rushuang. I heard the two of you are brothers. You're really just as bad as each other. You're surrounded by enemies throughout the world, while he's detested by everyone. You two are a perfect match. Beitang Rushuang had very accurate information about everyone relevant on the Martial Heaven continent. An everlasting family naturally had to be up to date. Emonian in particular was a marvel. After all, it could be considered an unprecedented miracle throughout the Martial Heaven continent's history that a person could rob so many people's ancestral tombs without being killed. I feel like I'm a bit better than him. At the very least, I'm not hated to this extent. Longchen rubbed his chin. Based on the reactions to their arrivals, he should be one level better. At the very least, he hadn't been attacked by half the experts present. A wild mob dares to speak such arrogant words? Emonian snorted. He waved his hand through the air, and a slender thread appeared in the air like a bowstring. Upon seeing that, Beitang Rushuang's disdainful expression became one of shock. The earth is my bow, the heavens are my string? Has he actually reached this realm? Emonian plucked the string. The void shuddered, and a ripple blew back the experts pouncing toward him. With just a wave of his hand, he blew back tens of thousands of experts like they were rotten wood. For a moment, everyone was stuck in stunned silence. Soaking in everyone's shocked gazes, Emonian clasped his hands behind him and solemnly said, I don't want to kill people, so don't force me. As for your ancestors' graves, that's because your ancestors once committed grave sins against my Mo gate. Enmities naturally have to be avenged, but as an upright person, I don't feel like misplacing blame. Your ancestors are the ones who made mistakes, so I haven't placed any enmity on you. Is getting justice from your ancestors underground wrong? You robbed our tombs, brought the corpses into the sun, and stole all the funerary objects. Emonian, how can you be so shameless as to make it sound righteous? Roars of fury rang out. Cough, you can't put it like that. Vengeance has interest too. After so much time, I naturally had to get some interest. Taking some of those things was simply correct. As for bringing your ancestors out into the sun, you can't blame me. In the yin-yang world, you shamelessly attacked me. Longchen might be a pushover, but I'm not. We originally had an agreement that he would kill the living while I dug up the dead, but even after I dug up everyone, Longchen didn't manage to kill more than a few before stopping. Longchen, you coward, you were conning me, weren't you? In the end, Emonian shouted at Longchen, drawing everyone's attention to Longchen. What? When had he agreed to that? Emonian was digging up people's tombs to restore the power of the five-element sun hunting bow, but now he made it sound like it was all for Longchen. Too shameless. Longchen, you're also trash. The two of you are scourges of the Martial Heaven continent, and sooner or later, you'll face your miserable deaths. One of the ancient race experts was shouting, but before people could understand what was happening, Emonian waved a hand and that expert collapsed, a hole in his head. That person was a powerful Empyrean who, based on his aura, had awakened his manifestation. But in front of Emonian, he didn't have any ability to resist. In fact, the experts present didn't even grasp what kind of attack Emonian had just launched. The furious experts fell silent, no longer daring to casually curse them. You can curse me, but you can't insult my brother or you'll die. Emonian snorted and walked over to Longchen. Longchen clapped his forehead as he suddenly realized that Emonian was using him as an excuse to kill someone and show off his power. Furthermore, he actually put Longchen in his debt by doing so. This fellow's shamelessness far surpassed his combat power. The death of that ancient race expert was done in such a way that the other experts didn't dare to say a word in response, afraid that they would be the next. It's been a while. Emonian walked over. Long Chen helplessly extended his arms for a hug, but unexpectedly, this fellow went right past him and toward Beiding Rushuang. Long Chen's movement stiffened. Aya! After being conned, Long Chen silently extended a leg, tripping Emonian, causing Emonian to tumble toward Beiteng Rushuang. A runic arrow appeared in Beiteng Rushuang's hand. It was pointed straight at Emonian's heart. Emonian's arms were originally spread for a hug, but now they were raised into the air. Do I know you? Beiteng Rushuang looked up and down Emonian. I've long since heard of Fairy Rushuang's great name, so we can count as friends, said Emonian awkwardly, slowly backing up. What a shifty-eyed fool. Both of you are rotten eggs. Beiteng Rushuang snorted and put away her runic arrow. Cough serves you right, cough. Long Chen had a sudden coughing fit. Long Chen, that's where you're wrong. I'm taking a break from my research of archaeology to help you out, but you laugh at my misfortune? Doesn't your conscience hurt? Asked Emonian. Give it up. I feel like if you didn't come, at least half the people here wouldn't make a move against me, said Long Chen. As soon as Emonian arrived, he sensed profound hostility from others. Their hatred for Emonian had now spread to him. Good brothers should share, chortled Emonian. He pulled Long Chen to the side and whispered, Are you interested in doing something big with me? What? Is there some big business? Asked Long Chen. Yes, a supreme bit of business. Through my years of grave-robbing archaeology, after so many years of archaeology, I've accumulated experience. I've gone through the tombs of the various large powers. I no longer feel the challenge. That's why I'm planning on something harder, something that will allow my archaeology skills to advance to a new level, said Emonian mysteriously. Stop saying so many useless things and get to the important part. What are you planning? I want to go rob the corrupt god cemetery, said Emonian. Even Long Chen didn't expect Emonian to have set his sights on the corrupt god cemetery. That was the most mysterious of the Martial Heaven Continent's 7 danger zones. It was also the one that people knew the least about. This danger zone was in the corrupt god's world. Legend had it that the experts that obtained the corrupt god's special care were qualified to be buried there, but as for what exactly was inside, no one knew. In fact, it was unknown whether it really existed or not. Are you being serious? You found the corrupt god cemetery? Asked Long Chen. Of course I'm serious. I've found the entrance to the corrupt god cemetery, but I'm not confident enough to go on my own. I'm thinking that when we all have time, let's go with Xiachen and Guoran. We can go for a stroll in the corrupt god cemetery and see if there's anything good. Even if there isn't anything good, robbing the corrupt god cemetery will definitely shake the entire world. I'll become the #1 figure in the archaeology world's history, said Emonian excitedly. I feel like your thinking is too imaginative. That place is filled with dangers. Let me put it to you this way. I could be enticed, said Long Chen. I knew it. Once you have time, we can discuss the details, said Emonian. Hey, do you two even care about your lives? Asked Beiteng Rushuang. Are you eavesdropping? Asked Emonian. Eavesdropping? You don't have a sound blocking screen up. Who can't hear it? Said Beiteng Rushuang. Only then did Emonian realize that the people nearby weren't the Dragonblood Legion but the Beiteng family's disciples. Don't worry, my subordinates aren't talkative. But I should warn you, if you do go to that place, you will definitely die, said Beiteng Rushuang. Really? The corrupt god cemetery can't be entered? Asked Emonian. Going there was currently his best option for getting rich quickly. Do you even know the origins of the corrupt god cemetery? Asked Beiteng Rushuang. Long Chen and Emonian exchanged a glance and shook their heads. All they knew was that there was definitely good stuff there. Beiteng Rushuang was speechless. You don't even know the situation, yet you dare to set your sights on it? Your guts are too big. Guts equal profits, said Emonian solemnly. Do you even know why the corrupt god cemetery is called the corrupt god cemetery? It's because the corrupt god's true corpse is buried within. No one dares to enter, not even the master of the corrupt path, said Beitang Rushuang. Isn't it said that the corrupt path's supreme experts will be buried inside when they die? Asked Long Chen. That's right, those old monsters of the corrupt path were definitely buried with some good stuff. Of course, I'm not doing this for those treasures but to research history. Yes, I'm a researcher of history, said Emonian. If it's impossible to enter, how did those corpses get in? Did they fly in by themselves? You simply don't understand. If it was anyone else, I wouldn't bother saying anything, but fine. The people who carry the coffins into the corrupt god cemetery are all buried inside as well. If you want to become a funerary object as well, do as you please, said Beitang Rushuang indifferently. Hearing that, Long Chen and Emonian nodded at the same time and said in unison, it seems that we'll need a surefire plan. The two of them were still set on going to the corrupt god cemetery. Beitang Rushuang almost got angry, but she couldn't be bothered to waste any more effort on these two crazy guys. When she had said that the corrupt god's true body was entombed there, both their eyes had lit up at the same time. Ah, about that, Sister Rushuang, Emonian put on his warmest smile. Don't smile so sinisterly. If you have something to say it directly. Also, don't call me sister, we're not so close, said Beitang Rushuang immediately. Emonian's smile stiffened. When it came to picking up girls, he was still lacking. He beckoned to Long Chen. You handle her. Long Chen almost hit him for saying that. What kind of friend conned you all the time? However, Beitang Rushuang was ignoring Emonian, so Long Chen said, about that, in truth, we just want to know a bit about the corrupt god cemetery. Can Fairy Rushuang make things convenient for us? Why do I have to make things convenient for you? Let me tell you, it's very inconvenient for me right now. Beitang Rushuang immediately started putting on the airs of an important person. This was Long Chen's first time talking to her from such a subservient point. If she didn't get some revenge now, when would she? Inconvenient. What, have your monthlies come? Long Chen spoke randomly without thinking about it. When he realized what had come out of his mouth, he immediately tried to run. However, Beitang Rushuang's body suddenly twisted like a cheetah. Long Chen's vision flashed, and before he could even tell what she was doing, her arm was wrapped around his neck. This was an alluring move. Of course, this alluring move wasn't something that just anyone could be blessed with. The earth shook as Long Chen was smashed into the ground with Beitang Rushuang still clenching his neck. The earth split open, and it was vaguely possible to hear creaking sounds coming from Long Chen's neck. The Beitang family's disciples standing behind Beitang Rushuang shrank back, feeling a chill around their necks. Perhaps others didn't know about Beitang Rushuang's moves, but they did. She wasn't just skilled at long-range attacks, her movements in close-range combat were equally sharp. This was one of Beitang Rushuang's best moves. She rarely used it, but anyone she used it on would have their neck snap. Even Long Chen, with his thick skin, felt a sharp pain from his neck as if it would be pulled off. Emonian jumped in shock. He hadn't thought that Beitang Rushuang would suddenly become so vicious. If he was struck by this move, he estimated that his head would already be off. As a result, he finally felt some sympathy for Long Chen. Even picking up girls had dangers lying within. Long Chen, I've endured you for a long time. Do you want to try repeating what you just said? Beitang Rushuang finally gained a chance to act out against him. The arm she was using to choke him was the arm she used for pulling back her bowstring. Her muscles were very defined even through the leather. Long Chen twisted and turned his head, and as a result, it ended up mashed between two tough mountains. He tried to struggle, but his neck was caught, and he was unable to escape. Beitang Rushuang was completely focused on venting by tightly clenching his neck. She forgot to take this awkward positioning into consideration. Long Chen kicked and flailed, but Beitang Rushuang refused to allow him to turn. Suddenly, she realized that another group of people had appeared nearby, staring at her oddly. Nangong Zuyu had arrived. Cough, sorry for intruding. We'll come back another time. Nangong Zuyu turned and walked away. Only then did Beiting Rushuang notice countless experts in the distance staring at her in shock and realize that Long Chen's face was pressed against her chest. She immediately flung Long Chen away, and he tumbled across the ground several times before being able to stand. When he rose, people felt a chill from their spines. Long Chen's head was now facing his back. Cracking sounds rang out as Long Chen twisted his head back with his hands. Shaking it a few times, he realized that he had underestimated just how powerful Beitang Rushuang was. The power she had used was an ancient, mysterious force. If she had wanted to kill him just now, without being prepared, his head might have really been wrung off. What are you looking at? Hurry and thank Miss Beitang for her nurturing. Oh, I mean her favor of not killing you. Emo Nien hastily changed his words when he saw Beitang Rushuang raise her hand to her bow. Emo Nien, just you wait. Long Chen nodded at Emo Nien. He had truly been conned by this fellow today. He would remember this debt. Many thanks for showing mercy, Miss Beitang, said Long Chen. So, Emo Nien, let me introduce you to the peerless fairy Nangong Zhu who is as gentle as water. Pointing at Emo Nien, Long Chen said, this person is someone who likes robbing tombs and graves. If he can't beat you, he'll still annoy you to death. He is Mr. Emo Nien. Emo Nien knew that Long Chen wouldn't give him a good introduction, so he immediately said, Fairy Zuyu, don't listen to his nonsense. In truth, I am researching the relics of our ancient history and reviving the ancient era's civilization. My hope is to be a pioneer who can bring back the age of immortals. Although the continent doesn't really approve of my profession, I am confident that one day, I will be like the sun that blows away the black clouds and let the whole world cheer for me. Do you see that? Rushuang, you said I was the most shameless person in the world, but I refused to accept that. Now do you understand? Just listen to this fellow's self-introduction. Do you feel like there's anyone who can compare to him? Long Chen seemed to have expected Emo Nien's words and immediately followed up. As expected, you're both more shameless than the other, said Beitang Rushuang. After encountering Emo Nien, she truly found that bestowing the title of the #1 most shameless person in the world to Long Chen had been premature. Emo Nien wanted to argue some more, but Long Chen didn't give him a chance. He directly set up a sound barrier for the four of them to talk. Miss Xiu, I have some things I'd like your advice on. Do you know much about the corrupt god cemetery? Long Chen gave up on asking Beitang Rushuang. Nangong Zhu was much gentler, and asking her was safer. The corrupt god cemetery? Why would you ask about it? Asked Nangong Zhu. The two of them want to go grave robbing, interjected Beitang Rushuang. Nangong Zhu looked at the two of them like they were monsters. She wasn't quite able to wrap her mind around the concept. Rob the corrupt god's tomb? Fairy Zhu, don't listen to Fairy Rushuang. She's just telling a joke. The truth is that this is all part of a study. Yes, a study to see if there are any ways to further develop ourselves, said Emo Nien. Nangong Zhu hesitated. I know a bit, but not as much as Fairy Rushuang. You should have Fairy Rushuang explain it instead. Long Chen knew that this was because Nangong Zhu was more meticulous and knew that the two of them might have asked Beitang Rushuang, only to end up in the awkward scenario she had seen when she arrived. If she directly answered, it would make Beitang Rushuang unhappy. This embodied Nangong Zhu's character. Just like her spiritual Yuan attribute, she didn't like fighting or being conspicuous. Then may I ask Fairy Rushuang for pointers? I'm listening well. Long Chen put on a grateful and obedient expression. If he continued messing around, Beitang Rushuang might refuse to say anything, and Nangong Zhu would definitely not say much in consideration for her. Beitang Rushuang almost laughed at Long Chen's fake obedience. She said, the corrupt god cemetery is the corrupt path's greatest support. It is the wellspring of their divine energy. But the most frightening thing is that if they used the corrupt god's corpse, this entire world would face a calamity. What's with the corrupt god's corpse? Asked Emo Nien. When Beitang Rushuang explained it, Long Chen and Emo Nien both jumped in shock. The corrupt god's corpse had laid within the corrupt god cemetery all this time. In truth, throughout the corrupt path's history, There had been many corrupt gods to ascend. Those ascenders left behind their own mortal skulls, essence blood, or some other inheritance objects as they ascended. However, those were not the true corrupt god. They could be considered the heirs of the true corrupt god's Tao. The true first-generation corrupt god had left his complete mortal corpse buried within the corrupt god cemetery for future generations of the corrupt path to worship. Future experts of the corrupt path that managed to ascend had their bodies buried inside there as well so that they could continue to accompany the corrupt god. Legend was that the corrupt god cemetery was where the corrupt path's karmic luck was gathered. It was the strongest foundation for the corrupt path, and there was an unimaginable amount of divine energy gathered inside. If it was forced awake, then that corpse would probably absorb all the corrupt path's karmic luck to strengthen itself and then destroy the world. Is it really so terrifying? Long Chen and Embark couldn't help asking. This had exceeded their expectations. It is. Even when the corrupt path was in a weak state, the righteous path did not dare to force them into despair because the entire world is afraid of the corrupt god cemetery. That is why they can run rampant and slaughter with the righteous path only being able to defend. They cannot strike deep into the heart of the corrupt path, said Nangong Zuyu. All right, then we'll shelve this matter. We'll go once we're stronger. No matter what, I have to go take a look at the corrupt path's ancestral tomb. This is my target, my belief, my life's greatest challenge. Embark clenched his fists and swore an oath. Even Nangong Zuyu couldn't help shaking her head. Had Embark gotten addicted to grave robbing? All right, remember to call me when the time comes. Long Chen nodded. The corrupt path was a group of brainwashed madmen. He also wanted to see what the founder of this brainwashed organization looked like. Go then. Have the corrupt god's corpse bite you to death, said Beitang Rushuang irritably. Being bitten to death is better than being choked to death, Long Chen mumbled to himself and glanced at Beitang Rushuang's chest. Beitang Rushuang was lightning quick. Her fingers were like hooks clawing at Long Chen's arm, but this time, Long Chen was prepared and slipped away like a mud fish. Long Chen laughed inside. Did she think he would fall for the same move twice? When he was on guard, Beitang Rushuang wouldn't be able to grab him so easily. You shouldn't keep fighting. Dongfang Yuyang has arrived, said Nangong Zhu. Long Chen saw a group of people slowly walking out of a flying boat that had just arrived. They caused quite a disturbance. Dongfang Yuyang was as handsome as ever. He nodded toward the maidens who cheered at his arrival. With his warm smile and pure white robes, it went without saying that he was truly elegant. Behind Dongfang Yuyang were 30-some disciples of the Dongfang family. Every one of them was very young, but they were fully awakened Empyreans. The stone race's people have also come. Quiet voices rang out, and as expected, Long Chen looked over to see a group of large figures walking over. Long Chen immediately recognized the one-eyed Shilingfeng. Shilingfeng also saw Long Chen, and his remaining eye smoldered with hatred. It seems that he's become much stronger. Long Chen was a bit surprised. His spiritual perception was telling him that Shilingfeng was more frightening than before. He has most likely started inheriting the Stone Emperor's abilities. You should be careful around him. He'll only get stronger, warned Nangong Zuyu quietly. Long Chen nodded. These ancient powers definitely couldn't be underestimated. Their foundations were extremely profound. The Pill Fairy has also come, said Embark. Looking at Long Chen, he sighed inside. Originally, he had thought that the two of them would end up together, but the Pill Fairy had gone from a kind person to a cold killer who wanted Long Chen dead. Following the Pill Fairy were the disciples of Pill Valley. The surprising thing was that these disciples were covered in divine flames and exceptionally fierce auras. They were all powerful flame cultivators. When did Pill Valley get so many powerful Empyreans? Long Chen was shocked. Each of these disciples was like a volcano ready to explode. Such powerful experts had not been present during the Brahma's secret realm. If it was just one or two, Long Chen could understand as hiding one's trump cards was normal. But there were over 30 of them, and they were all awakened Empyreans. This couldn't be accidental. Their auras were all steady like they had awakened their manifestations a long while ago. Long Chen looked at them. Although they seemed young, there was a certain look in their eyes, one that spoke of times past. Experts sealed during the ancient era. Long Chen's heart shook as he guessed the origin of these experts. The pill fairy didn't speak to anyone. She only glanced at Long Chen before finding a spot for herself, and someone set up a chair for her to sit in. A few people had been standing in that general area, but they immediately scattered once the pill fairy went over, giving her a very wide space. She came to kill me. Long Chen had a helpless expression. How do you know? Asked Beitang Rushuang. The two of us control the same flame. Hence, the killing intent inside her can be sensed by my flame. Now I understand why Jian Wuchen would challenge you Zifeng at this time, sighed Long Chen. The gaze in his eyes grew sharper. You mean they're working together to target you? Asked Mon Yen. Most likely. Or they want to kill two birds with one stone, said Long Chen. Don't worry, with your brother here, no one will be able to touch you. Mon Yen patted his chest. You have more enemies than me. If a fight starts, I'll probably be dragged down by you, said Long Chen. Long Chen. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out. Yi Lingshan had also come, bringing with her 30 disciples wearing the robes of the Martial Heaven Alliance. These disciples were also awakened Empyreans. However, their auras were clearly weaker and they were fluctuating a bit. Long Chen knew that these disciples had just awakened their manifestations recently and they had relied on medicinal pills. However, the pills that they had used weren't ones refined by him. They had been refined by the Huayan sect. The Huayan sect also had medicinal pills that could help an Empyrean awaken. However, their pills couldn't compare to a top-grade 100-flower Dao resonation pill, nor were they tribulation pills. Each person would need to consume 10 of these pills to greatly improve their chance of awakening their manifestation. The Huayan sect had announced the matter of these pills, which caused quite some waves. The fact that they had the power to refine 11th-tier pills was shocking, and with that ability, they had helped raise a new batch of experts for the Martial Heaven Alliance. These 30 disciples had become the perfect billboards for the Huayan sect. Wherever they went, they silently spread words of the Huayan sect's power. The Huayan sect was finally making a move and starting to stand on an equal level with Pill Valley in the medicinal pill market. Moreover, they also started wrestling away the business of the high-grade treasures. Countless sects that had once conducted business with them were bearing witness to the Huayan sect's true power. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen. Those disciples immediately bowed toward Long Chen worshipfully. Although Yi Lingshan was the future leader of the Martial Heaven Alliance, Long Chen was the pillar lifting that alliance up. I remember you. In the Yin-Yang world, you took a saber attack to protect your brother. Well done. Long Chen nodded toward one of those disciples and raised a thumb. That person had a long scar on his face, which had been left there by a blade from a corrupt paths expert. The insidious energy contained within it had left a scar on his face permanently. Long Chen still remembered it, as it had left quite an impression on him to see a disciple of the Martial Heaven Alliance take a blow for a fellow disciple. As a result, that disciple was moved beyond words just by the fact that Long Chen remembered him. Long Chen patted him on the shoulder. There was no need to say any more. The other disciples were also moved. In their eyes, Long Chen was a true hero, someone in touch with the common people. In their hearts, he was already like a god. Compared to other experts that gave off a cold feeling of aloofness, they preferred the likes of Long Chen and Mon Yen who didn't care about their status. They were unconstrained by such affairs. Long Chen, my master warns you to be cautious. She feels like this challenge is too sudden, said Yi Lingshan to him quietly after greeting Beideng Rushuang and Nangong Zuyu. Hey, Miss Lingshan, are you ignoring me? I'm so big. Is it possible that you didn't see me? Asked an aggrieved Mon Yen. Yi Lingshan had forgotten to greet him. Yi Lingshan merely glared at him, indicating for him to not interrupt. Long Chen nodded. Yes, I feel the same way. Just at this moment, rumbling rang out from the sky. A giant war chariot came flying over like a shooting star. It's the Ximen family's heaven-piercing war chariot. Ximen Tianxiong must have come, said Beitang Rushuang, startled. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.